Hey guys, here I am again with another Jake's Metal Chat. This is episode 29. I've been getting shit done today and I got my guest rating already because he told me. Before I bring him in, giving you update on my podcast. It's pretty much done. I may have to do a few tweaks here and there, like editing wise, and maybe redo the intro for it because I've been hearing it only through one speaker, and I'm pretty sure the drums that I had for the song when I had it as a grindcore song is on my external hard drive, and yeah, that's about it really. Everyone's seen the Rotten Rage to Misery shirt on my last video I did. Not the one I just done with my mate Simon, but 2, 3, maybe 4 videos before that. So yeah, I will be getting my podcast up and running, and I won't say what it's called yet until I've actually got it up, set up with an email address and everything. And yeah, I'm gonna bring my guest in now. Let's bring him in. It's like the slash. I think he's on his phone. Oh, great, didn't connect. Can't hear. Can't hear. Audio is always a bit crap on here. Oh, it's connecting again. Let's see what happens. Yeah, it's connected. Okay, now he's muted. Unmute yourself.
Now we're good?
We're good. Oh, thank fuck for that.
Okay, awesome.
First didn't connect, then it did, and then you muted. It's like, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, well, it's like I said, I'm new to Zoom. I usually use Skype, so that's my excuse.
Yeah, I've been using this for my videos, so I don't know how to record something on Skype and then put it on YouTube or anything. So
I've been, yeah, I tried to catch up with some of your videos, man. You got Cam Lee. That's awesome, dude.
yeah, that's my longest one. That was 3 hours of him chatting about the death metal scene back in the very early days, obviously.
Yeah, I definitely intend to watch it because we reached out to him. He's kind of a hard guy to nail down. He didn't get back to us, man. I always wanted to get him on the show. He seems like an interesting character.
Yeah, it took me a while to get him on. I do this, and this. He talked because I had Ken on before Cam came on.
Yeah.
Bill Ken of Ken's Death Metal Crypt, or he calls himself Uncle Ken.
Yeah, he's a good guy, Ken, man. I like his channel a lot too, man.
Yeah, because I started checking out like 2016, I want to say, and I just found all these demos before he uploaded any bands from other countries. He mainly just did it in his own backyard.
Yeah, he started with the U.S. death metal, and then he like was forced to branch out after he launched like all million of his U.S. death metal demos, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Right, yeah, so more bands, not just from the US, but my country, France, Italy, Belgium, Peru.
Yeah.
I think it's got bands from Peru on there.
Yeah,
Portugal,
everywhere, man.
All those bands. Well, welcome to Jake's Metal Chat.
Thank you. Appreciate it, man.
This is episode 29, so that makes you guest number 29.
Awesome, man. All right, sick. Not 30 yet, man. Still
not yet. I'm not sure even have. I think I got some from my 30th episode. So I just need to get more people for like maybe end of this month, and then March, April, May, June, July, August.
Yeah, keep going, man.
Depends on people's availability.
Yeah. Tell me about it. It's what we deal with on my podcast, trying to book people, man. It's like, it's an ongoing process, man. And then people get back to you months later and all sorts of stuff, man. Yeah.
Yeah, because I actually got my list of all the months, and I'm just gonna post it on Facebook saying I got all this available space. Who wants to come on
All right. Well,
and chat metal and shit? You know.
I wish you good luck with that, but be careful what you wish for, man. You may have some you may have to kick some stragglers out of the party in that case. You never
Yeah,
know who's gonna show up.
I'll probably just send it to people I know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Just send it to people I know, not anyone random. And I've
yeah,
been
yeah,
checking out your podcast. I thought, oh, Ken's been on there, and you mentioned my mate Phil from Phil's Metal Breakfast.
yeah. My co-host Tom, I think, goes back and forth with Phil a little bit more than I have, man. But I know they've messaged back and forth and stuff like that, and we support one another. And I've checked out his program, once or twice. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a mate. He's a mate of mine. I seen him at a lot of gigs before the lockdown happened. So when we could go to gigs, I saw him a lot there.
Yeah. What part of England you in?
Bristol.
Bristol? Okay, man. That's cool. I've never been to England myself, man. I'm hoping that maybe when this pandemic lifts, one of my bands can head over there. We can see it for ourselves.
Cool. Yeah, that'll be great. And yeah, again, yeah, I'd like to introduce this man. I don't think I got your name when I was chatting to you to get this chat sorted. You're not
Yeah, yeah. Take your time if you want to do a formal introduction.
formal introduction. Because I was trying to get some people from not just bands but podcasts and whatever. And this would be Big Will. I'm assuming
Yeah, that's what they call me.
Big Will. Because I when I was like I thought, who am I talking to? I was like, because sometimes I'm like, who am I going to talk to on my chat? It's always sometimes a big surprise, and I was like, is it Tom or was it the other host? And then it's you,
Well,
Big Will.
yeah, it depends. It's kind of like you can get any one of us on the different messengers and email and stuff for the podcast. We all pitch in with that sort of stuff, man, because it gets a little daunting. You want to get back to everybody, but you get so many messages and nowadays it's not just email, it's like Facebook Messenger, Instagram Messenger, email, Twitter, it's everywhere, man. So you got
So
to you got to
yeah,
the social media game.
yeah, because I was only supposed to be having two members of the last band I chatted to called Digora from London,
Mhm.
but and then I got a message from Reese, who's one of the members, saying, "Oh, our bassist Archie's gonna come on as well." I thought, okay, that's that's fine. I thought it was just gonna
Always
be
room.
it.
Well,
Yeah.
we've had stuff like that where we usually try to interview one guest at a time, and we do more of like a biographical interview. We try to go through someone's life. But like every once in a while, you'll get someone where like, yeah, the whole band wants to come on, and we're in 3 different locations because of coronavirus. So now we got this like 5-way Skype call going, and Tom is the one who does most of the audio engineering, so he's got to contend with all that sort of stuff. But yeah,
Mm.
work it out best you can.
Yeah, yeah. Well, can't really meet up with them and do interviews because of coronavirus. And I'll just ask you
Yeah.
that straight away. When it first happened, when we heard about it and everyone had to go in lockdown, where was your mind at?
Well,
Someone's different.
I was, I think like everybody, like most people, I was in maybe a greater state of alarm than I am now because of the uncertainty. I mean, we still face the future with great uncertainty now, but at that point, we didn't know anything that was going to happen, man. So everything was up in the air. I didn't know what was going to happen in terms of my job and my day job, my hours getting cut. I didn't know what was going to happen in terms of the bands and canceling shows and all that sort of stuff. I mean, my main concern when the news sank in, that and it kind of sank in that everything was getting shut down, and this was going to be the way for the unforeseen future of social distancing and all that sort of stuff. I
Mm.
mean, I just tried to think of my family and my job foremost. I mean, metal, I don't want to sound, uh, uh, you, like like I don't appreciate metal or whatever, but metal's there. What it wasn't going away. My shows dropped and my tours dropped, but as we see, we've all kept in touch with one another. Now I'm doing the metal chat with you, Jake. You know what I mean? So it's like my main concern was my day job and my family, much like most people, real life concerns, because I have faith in metal. And I said, obviously I'm bummed out. We had to cancel tours. My bands had to cancel shows. Recording plans got bumped back. But all of that pales in comparison to people who lost lives. I was sick. I had the virus myself. Thankfully, I recovered for it. I'm very grateful for that. That was months ago, and I know people who didn't recover from it, who died from it, man. So I mean, to put it all in comparison, it's like the metal bands and the metal, as much as it's my life. I just knew, we're gonna go with the flow, one way or another. We're gonna be metal,
Mm.
and it was. I just knew that whatever we were going to do, most likely, it was going to be podcasting and YouTube and stuff like this for a while, instead of going to shows and being in mosh pits with a dozen people sweating and breathing and spilling drinks on one another. I knew that was out for a while, but
Mm.
I knew that whatever we were going to do on the internet with metal, it was going to help me get through it, as it has. People like you who are doing the social media stuff and doing my own podcast. We just, the artificial brain record. It's almost done. I'm putting the vocals on it the last few weeks, and we're getting some guest vocalists to do some stuff. And so by way of being able to do the vocals, most of the music is done. So things are still going, man. I wasn't worried that metal was just going to stop and that metal was not going to be part of my life anymore. I was more, worried about the real life stuff. And metal, as it always has been there for me in my life through this.
Yeah, yeah, metal's been there for me. I've just been writing music from home, and because
Hmm.
I'm trying to get a demo out for my death metal band that I got, and my folk metal band sorting out an EP because we've been struggling with a lineup for quite a while with that band, me and my mate.
Yeah.
Now we
I
got a
like.
full lineup, and it's like, oh shit, we can't meet up. Like, we
Yep.
can't meet up and rehearse, and because one of our members, he had intestinal problems for a while. This is way before the pandemic. This was like 2017. He started getting them, and now he's got to live with a colostomy bag for them pretty much for the rest of his life now, and it's upsetting to see. But once he got the surgery and now he's got the surgery and all that, he's slowly getting back to himself, so it's all good.
Yeah, yeah,
Fucking
I mean that's what I mean. Things like that, that's what you worry about is your friends who have real life issues going on and stuff like that, man, and the lineup problems and all that. I know exactly what you're talking about, man. But you just hang in there with it, and it sorts itself out after a while, man. You gotta be like that rock in the middle of the ocean that the waves keep crashing against in terms of the lineups when you want to get your bands going. I've got a lot of different projects now. I've got a lot of different people I collaborate with and work with, and a lot of great musicians. The Afterbirth guys, the Artificial Brain guys, and stuff. But all that stuff was the result of me being patient and sticking with death metal for like 20 years. I've been in and out of bands that the lineups changed, people come and go, people all left, people kicked me out of bands and stuff like that, all sorts of shit, man. It's part of the game,
yeah,
But it was shout to your friend though, man. I wish him the best, man. That sounds like a real tough predicament he's in.
yeah. It's my mate Steve. He doesn't live in Bristol. Lives in like in around Reading, which is now
Okay.
part in the UK. Can't think how far it is from Bristol. My geography is a bit crap, but
It's I hate to say it, but it's all the same to me, man. I have to go there and see it for myself. Like I said, I've never been.
yeah. Well, when you come to Bristol, with whichever band you decide to come with, we got a pub called the Griffin,
Okay,
which
sounds good. Sounds proper.
yeah, you go inside, you see the bar. My mate John owns it, and then behind it there's the stairs which leads up. There's one that leads down to the gents' toilets. Obviously, you need the toilets, otherwise, where are people going to piss? And then like upstairs, ladies' toilets, and then there's another door which leads to where the bands perform. It's not a stage. It's the stage is the same height as the floor, so like bands will wonder like, where's the stage? That's it.
I like that though, man. That's my type of place, man. I like the smaller DIY type of spots and the smaller pubs, man. It's always fun, man.
Yeah, it's absolutely awful during the summer because you can't open the windows because bands are performing.
Yeah,
So you have to
yeah,
put up fans, but they're no damn good either because they're blowing the warm air around.
yeah, yeah. It's just kind of like recirculating the dampness and the humidity.
It's like, oh, I'll be fine. Oh God, I reek of other people.
Yeah, yeah. Reek of putrefaction, as they
Reek of
say.
putrefaction. That's what can happen.
Yeah, man. Yeah, but you know what's funny, man? You're talking about it all as nasty as those type of venues, because I know plenty of them in the States myself that are like what you're describing. Well, I would go to a show at one of those places in a heartbeat right now, man. We all miss them.
Yeah, I just want to get gigs back up and running,
Yes,
festivals,
sir.
and actually be able to meet up with mates and just give them all a big hug because I'm a hugger.
Yeah, I hear you, man.
I love to give
Yeah,
hugs.
I think that's one of the toughest things, man. Is the shows. We're social people, man, and just because you're a metalhead, you're a social person too, man. That's not being able to rehearse with my bands took a toll on me because when this whole you talk about when the whole thing first started, the podcast we started doing through Skype, alone at our house, with the guest on Skype or whatever, and we didn't see each other. My bands all dropped rehearsing with one another for a while, and still, like my band Reeking Aura has members in New Jersey and Pennsylvania and New York spread out, and because of travel things going on, you got to quarantine after traveling, after this and that, so we don't rehearse, until things get better. And my band Afterbirth, we all live in the same county here on Long Island. We just started rehearsing a few weeks ago, really, and I realized what a huge difference it made to be in a room with my friends again. You know what I
Mm.
mean? And just to, you don't realize it maybe because we're like metalheads and we like to, sit in our room and listen to our CDs and tapes sometimes. But having the shows and the rehearsals taken away made me real, appreciate my friends a lot. Like you're saying, man.
Yeah, I'm missing a lot of my mates at the moment. It does suck
Hmm.
because I got to see them around October. It's like properly meet up with them, like maybe like September, October sort of time. So late summer to autumn,
Hmm.
and got me up with my mate Chris, who I've been to a lot of gigs with. I've known him for like over 10 years almost, nearly 11 years almost, because I met him on my birthday back in November of 2009. And yeah, sucks not seeing him, sucks not hanging out with him, give him a hug when I see him, and a hug afterwards. And when lockdown actually did ease a little bit, I could meet up with him and we'll go to the house for a little bit. And then obviously lockdown happened,
Yeah.
and I can't do that anymore because
Yeah.
you know, and there are people that obey it as like, yeah, I need to keep people safe, but then you get the pea brain fucking idiots who don't obey the lockdown rules here anyway. In the UK, you just don't get them.
Yeah. Yeah. There's everywhere. I think you probably have more people ignoring the rules over here. I don't know. We could compare and contrast, but I know what you mean, man. It's tough, man. And I'm one. I don't like to tell people what to do. I don't like to be told what to do, but I do try to err on the side of common sense and safety, obviously, man. So it's this whole situation's been tough on everybody's mental health. It's been stressful on everybody, man. It's one thing when I do we have the Heavy Hole podcast Instagram. I do videos. I'll talk about merch, talk about bands, show my lyric book, what little things like that. Sometimes, if I always end off, I tell people you got to take care of yourself, and stress and depression and anger and all that stuff is real. And what everyone's been through worldwide the last several months, the last year almost, that's it's just going to amplify it, man. I say that I notice it in myself, man. Everybody is getting negative effects off of
Mm-hmm.
this being locked in the house all the time. You can't see your friends. Tons of people are dying. Some of us are sick. Some of us are recovered. Some of us, it's tough, man. It's tough, dude.
It's
It's good. It's good that we can at least talk about it with one another. And like, you see, even like you're over there in Bristol, over there in England, and like you're having a very relatable experience to what I'm experiencing over here, man. It's worldwide. It's crazy.
yeah, it's worldwide, and let's all hope everyone, because in the UK now, they're giving out the vaccines to pretty much everyone. They're starting with the most vulnerable, so people over 80, over 70, 60 and all that. So something's happening,
Yeah, yeah,
which is
it's
great.
something, man. I guess I'm like I'm more of a skeptical, pessimistic type of person, by nature. But I really hope that the optimists around me are right. I hope
Yeah,
things are gonna go get better. I hope things are gonna open up and everything, man. I say that I'm pessimistic, but it's because I don't want to get my hopes up. You know what I mean, man? So
yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm like
yeah,
that.
I wish everybody the best. I hope things go well, and I hope changes for the better, because
Yeah,
change is going to come one way or another,
yeah.
So I
Let's
hope it's
hope.
for the best.
Yeah, let's hope. And to get off of that negative, depressing note about COVID, let's
Well, we
talk.
got the
Let's talk
elephant
some
in the
metal.
room,
Yeah,
got to address
we've got to get rid of the elephant in the room. We've got to talk about it first. Now we can get on to the good stuff. The thing that
it.
makes us who we are, gives us positivity. And I ask this to every guest I've had so far on this video series, and I don't know how many more I'm gonna have later on in the year or whatever, but let's see where it goes. Where did your journey begin in music, and how did it get to this beautiful, awesome, sometimes really heavy, nasty sounding music? We could, well, I'd say that for with death metal, you get nasty sounding death metal, Undergame, for example,
Yeah, yeah,
and highly recommended.
yeah.
But
Great band,
how
Undergang.
I love that band. And but how did it get before getting into the death metal? How did you get into metal to
Well,
begin with? Like the first, like what was the first metal band you ever heard?
I'm not gonna. I could because I got my newly renovated cassette and CD closet back here, and that some of this stuff is like 30 years old. But I'm not gonna sit here and take out all these little tapes. But um, well, I always tell people my mom listened to Jimi Hendrix and Led Zeppelin and Janis Joplin and Black Sabbath, and not so much Black Sabbath. I kind of found out about them later on, but then Ozzy era Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden, a lot of stuff from your side of the ocean.
Yeah, pretty much.
um, Led Zeppelin, those huge to me as a kid and growing up, and then you kind of go down the wormhole. I'm 38, so it was like the mid to late 90s when I got into my teenage years, and Pantera was big, and I was a little bit like the new metal stuff. I mean,
Yeah,
there might be an occasional Korn or a Slipknot song that I heard that I enjoyed, but I was more like when I was like 11, 12, it was all about Soundgarden and Pearl Jam and Nirvana. Grunge rock was the big thing. So I liked some of
yeah,
that. I still enjoy Alice in Chains. And then by the time new metal came out, I was into thrash metal and death metal and grindcore and local hardcore bands that played out here a lot. Because my friend Adam, who was a year or two older than me, he was already full on tape trading underground with people and, uh, you know, worldwide tape trading with death metal bands and all that sort of thing. So he got me into it early on, and here where I'm from in Long Island, it's about maybe an hour outside of New York City,
yep.
and like I said, in the mid to late '90s, it was all about hardcore out here. Like I don't know if you know, but maybe like Indecision, Vision of Disorder, E Town Concrete was from New Jersey, but they played here a lot.
Yeah,
There was a lot of shows taking place at VFW halls and Knights of Columbus, which I don't know if they have something like that where you're from, but it's more like a rental hall instead of like a pub or a nightclub. It's more like a hall you would rent out for a family occasion or a wedding or something. And
yeah, we
people
got
were
those.
having like metal shows and hardcore shows in those back in the day. And because of that, there was no alcohol, so younger people could get in. And you would have, or even like they would rent out church basements, and in the basement of a church, somebody would bring a PA, and you'd $5 at the door. I used to go to hardcore shows here in my town of Huntington, where you could either pay $5 at the door or bring 2 cans of food, and they would put the cans of food in their food pantry for the needy, and that was your admission price to get in and see a couple of punk bands play on a Friday night. So
That's
punk
cool.
and hardcore was way bigger than metal where I was from.
Mm.
But I got the underground DIY, like you said, bands playing on the floor. Where's the stage? It's just the floor. I love that,
Just the full.
you know. And then when I got a little bit older, I could venture out towards Queens and Brooklyn and New York City, and that's where the death metal was more.
Yeah,
because death metal was more popular in the city than in the suburbs at that point, man. So that was pretty much it, man. My friend Adam got me into the underground, and I'm fortunate to be from Long Island, which is close to New York City, because there's there's a lot of rural places where people don't
yeah,
get shows and the bands don't go for tours.
yeah,
So
definitely. I've been to New York. I went. The only time I went there was 2002, and that's before I even got into metal. I knew about metal, but I didn't get into it until maybe a year later. So that'd be
mhm.
2003. And when I think New York, I think bands like Suffocation, Immolation, Incantation,
Yeah,
Mortician, uh, bloody hell, Internal Bleeding.
yep, yep. I
Uh,
saw you interview Chris.
yeah, great guy. He mentioned
Yeah,
Ripping Corpse as well, and I was like, I was about to say something, and I heard him say Ripping Corpse, and I was like, oh, I wanted to talk a bit more about Ripping Corpse, but
yeah, great band. Great. They were from New Jersey, but I know they played out here a lot. That's when you talk about New York, like you said, Immolation, Incantation, Mortician,
yeah,
they're more like upstate New York,
yeah,
which is you like from my area, you would have to go a little bit through the city or around the city to get there, whereas Suffocation and Internal Bleeding are from like right in my neck of the woods. But it's also relatively small that New Jersey, New York, even areas of Pennsylvania, Connecticut, you can all get there within like an hour and a half, 2 hour drive. So bands play shows with one another fairly frequently.
yeah. New York is big. I went there like I said, 2002, and just seeing how big it was. And one of the things I know it's not anything to do with metal, but when my mum, my nan, and my brother, when we went, as soon as we got out the subway, and when it was still called, when it still had F at the end of it, we saw the WWF building on the outside. Yeah, I think that was
Awesome.
in Manhattan.
Yeah.
I just
Awesome.
thought, I thought,
Awesome.
I want to see Kane and Undertaker. I want to see Kane and Undertaker, but obviously we had a schedule, so I couldn't.
That I wonder, would that have been Madison Square Garden
It might have
maybe at
been.
that point?
It might have been Madison Square Garden. I'm trying to picture it now because I've seen it on like.
Well, because that's definitely where they had a lot of those WWF and WWE later events.
Yeah,
And I did go out to see one at Madison Square Garden, probably like maybe like around 2003 or four or so. Yeah, so that's funny.
yeah. When I think 2003, I think the time I just think of that moment when Kane unmasked, because he unmasked, obviously.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That was see, I I got out of professional wrestling probably because I think I'm a little bit older than you. I when it
Yeah,
was called WWF, that's when I was hardcore into it,
yeah,
and the,
yeah. Because when I was
the
a kid, it was still called that. I
mhm.
was born in '91, and it was still called that up until 2002 or three.
Yeah, yeah, because like, and then ECW when that came out, that was like again like that. It was
ECW.
huge here on Long Island. Yeah, yeah, dude. That was right when I was like 15, 16, 17 years old. Was like the height of ECW, and they used to have shows here on Long Island, and they would have promotions out of like record stores on Long Island. Like
Yeah,
they were big here, man. So I got really into that, and then I think what happened was ECW just pushed everything to the limit, and like I really couldn't get with the Attitude Era WWE, WWF. Like
that's my
at that
childhood.
point, I was full on underground death metal, and it wasn't appealing to me anymore, man.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. I was gonna say about ECW. That was pretty much the brainchild of Paul Heyman,
Yeah, 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 man.
who is just
I
a
mean,
complete nutcase anyway. But
yeah,
he knows what he's doing.
I mean, I take it you follow it probably a little bit closer than I do, man. But
I
I've
went
listened to.
off it for a while, but then when I got back to it, I don't follow much of the new stuff that's happening at the moment.
Mhm.
I just go back to all the stuff that was happening when I was a kid that I probably missed half of on TV because it got aired here quite a bit, but I think you had to have the Sky channel, which we got here, Sky, which aired it. So I might watched it at like a mate's house near my nan's house, a little bit further away from where I am, and that's how I basically knew about that, and listening to friends talk about The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Triple H,
Yep.
Shawn Michaels, who I actually have seen wrestle, and that was back in 2006 at in Birmingham, here in the UK, and also Ric Flair.
Yeah, yeah.
I got to
See,
see
yeah,
him
Ric
wrestle.
Flair.
I got to see him wrestle.
That's more, yeah, that was more the era when WCW had just turned into WCW and they were competing with WWF, and then a little
Monday
bit
Night
later
Wars.
ECW breaks out. That was like my childhood. But a few years ago, I got way back into it because I started watching shoot interviews online
Oh, I
where
saw
they're all
those.
talking about the old days, and it's and like, yeah, like I said, like all these things about people talking about all the dirty stuff Paul Heyman did behind the scenes,
Yeah,
and yeah, man,
yeah,
like,
he
and
would have done.
I know I don't agree with him all the time. I mean, obviously, man, he's a controversial character, but I always listen to Jim Cornette's podcast
Oh, Jim Cornette.
because,
I've read his shoot interviews and stuff. Yeah,
yeah, I mean, love the guy or hate him, man. I don't agree with him all the time, but he gives really interesting kind
uh,
of like no punches pulled insight into the old days. He'll tell you what was
yeah,
going on.
yeah,
Which and then you go back and you watch some of these older wrestling events and wrestling matches. You can get them up on YouTube with like that insight of what was going on behind the scenes, or
yeah,
this guy was supposedly allegedly drunk and high during the match or whatever, and you get a whole different perspective on it
yeah.
now.
Because when I was, because every time I've seen Jim Cornette on something on his podcast, or he's been on shoot interviews with, I don't know the guy's name. He made him put a list on people he hates the
Yep.
most, and as soon as he mentions Vince Russo, puts him on
Yep.
the board. He hates Vince Russo with a passion.
Oh yeah, I've watched like the like, what is it, like a half hour super cut of him shitting on Vince Russo.
He
It's
hates.
really,
I can see why he hates him.
well, he makes a pretty good case,
He makes a very
and
good
then
case.
it actually makes you like question the line between kayfabe and reality. If you start because
Oh yeah,
it's
because they had
so
the
so
kayfabe.
crazy,
They had the
so
kayfabe,
crazy.
and
But yeah, I mean, he's hilarious to me. He's
yeah,
great.
yeah, he's always effing and blinding and everything. And when you see his house, like when he's been in documentaries, it's just filled with wrestling magazines and posters and videotapes and stuff. And like, what the what? He must have a big house.
Well, that's the thing with me too. When I watch that, or like when I watch Ken's Death Metal Crypt, it validates my collecting. You know
Yeah,
what
it
I mean?
validates what's in my cupboard with my CDs, and
Yeah, yeah.
and my
I
vinyls
hear
is
you, man.
no, we don't say vinyls, it's vinyl. We don't put the S on the end. All my vinyl is in
Oh,
this
like Moose or
in
something.
in
Like,
this box. All my
that's
vinyl
cool, man.
records
That's a
are in
nice
here.
case.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I can't access it right now easily, but I have a nice. It's not like that. It's not metal. It's more like a plastic with like a suede type of top.
Yeah, and well, I can't fit any more in there
But
because
but
got the
I bought shelves, man. I got like, I saw Ken's Death Metal Crypt. I wanted to get everything shelved up and alphabet. That was the inspiration for this. Is just an old clothes closet that I took all the shelves out of, and I made I cut all the wood and I just made shelves for CDs. I don't know if you can see on the side here, but I got the cassettes, man. Actually, I got a good one I want to show you since you're over there in the United Kingdom.
yep.
This is the your government censored desecration, gore, and perversion demo 1995.
There
This
we
is
go.
I don't
The
know if
box,
this might be a collector's, but it says, notice the original recordings, lyrics, and artwork were confiscated and dealt with by the Obscene Publication Squad. Therefore, the tracks on this audio cassette are the only rough mixes that remain.
yeah,
And this
I know.
is
I know the guys from Desecration as well because they live in Wales, which is over the bridge from us.
yeah, I would love to speak to them at some point, man. Because
Oh
I
yeah,
would just, and if you look too, they kind of they have the song titles, but they put like stars over the letters,
they
so you
would have.
can't read certain words. It's a piece of death metal history. As much as I joke around about it, it's
Yeah,
interesting to me.
good old Welsh death metal. Yeah,
Now,
they're from Wales. Here,
and Wales is close to where you are.
yeah, it's close to where we can get. Go over there by bridge if you drive or go on the train, and it takes you it takes you an hour, depending which
Now,
part of the city you go
n-
to, either Newport or Cardiff, which is like two of the big places to
at
go.
the risk of sounding ignorant, now Wales, what is that considered? Is that like a separate state within the United Kingdom, or a separate county, or is it its own country within the United Kingdom?
It's basically its own country because there are certain parts of Wales where they have their own language.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, so it's its own whole country.
It's
It's
its
just part
own
of the
country,
United
but
Kingdom.
they made it part of the UK.
I got it. Okay, all right.
Is
I'm not the most well educated man. I've learned more geography and history through death metal than
Yeah,
through proper schooling.
I know. Yeah, it's a bit weird to explain sometimes, but I try my best.
Well, you're also not the elected representative of the UK. You're just a guy who listens to
I'm
metal, so
just
it's
a
fine.
guy who lives here,
Yeah, I get it, dude.
and
It's all good.
I
Don't ask me to explain anything about people from America, man. That's a nightmare. I just live here too.
I've been to America. I've met a bunch of people in America. So yeah,
Sorry to hear that.
yeah, it's all right. You're loud. You're proud. Everything's big, and yeah, everything's big. Let's leave it at that.
Hey, growing big out here, man.
Everything's big. I've been to Florida a bunch of times,
Wow,
which
that's prime America.
is probably just like, or when I watched The Simpsons one time, say, I think you should go to Florida to cure your insomnia. Florida, and this is what Homer said from The Simpsons, but that's America's wang.
Well, it looks like it on a map.
It looks like it on a map.
You know,
I just think it. I'm just like it. Like, okay, I can see what he means, but don't diss it too much. Some of my favorite bands are from that state.
yeah, man. Hey, maybe that's the result. Florida's got you always hear about the Florida crazy news out of Florida and the kind of wild stuff out of Florida, but maybe that's why they make such great death thrash metal, who knows.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And well, this band I'm holding now is not from Florida. I'm trying to remember what state they're from, and it's Possessed,
Oh, but from California.
California. Oh, I was going to say
Classic band. Yep.
somewhere else that's hot.
Yeah, man.
Um,
I would. It's right now. It's pretty nasty over here. We just got a bunch of snow 2 weeks in a row, and now it's raining on top of the snow. I'd love to be in California.
yeah, I saw a bit of snow earlier here, but it doesn't really snow too much down here in Bristol. It's more further north in the UK,
Mm-hmm.
so go up to new like places like I think London's covered in snow. Manchester, I'm pretty sure is.
Mm-hmm.
Newcastle would be because they're quite close to Scotland.
I'm a fan of the beer, Newcastle.
Oh yeah, Newcastle brown,
Yeah,
very
very
nice,
tasty stuff.
very tasty stuff. And also, well, it's not original pressing. This is a reprint, and it's got lyrics and stuff.
That's great, man.
And the
Great band,
band,
Possessed.
yeah.
Have you heard the new album they put out a year or two ago?
Oh yeah, I absolutely love that album.
I thought it was a great comeback.
I absolutely loved it. As soon as I got it, I just put it on, listened to it. I was just like,
Mm-hmm.
holy shit! Because I saw him before that album came out. I saw him at Bloodstock, which is a
Oh,
big
okay.
festival here in the UK, big metal festival, and they played there. And I watched it back, the footage, and I can see myself in the pit headbanging and just doing the circle pit.
Yeah,
And I was
it's
just
always
like,
fun, man.
cool. But there's one bit where I'm just like that with my arms crossed and I'm looking, just seeing what's going on, and like, no, everyone's doing well.
Well, you gotta stop and smell the roses sometimes, man.
Smell the roses. And well, I'll show one more vinyl, and it's one of my favorite not Finnish, Swedish
Oh
bands,
wow.
Dismember.
Oh, that's great. Now I gotta get up because I gotta show you something. Hold on, give me 1 second.
That's the whole book. In with Jake's Metal Chat, you can show vinyl, CDs, tapes, and we can talk about anything that might be related to metal, like WWE, for example. Old school WWE.
This isn't the actual record. I don't own the vinyl, but this is a print of like you just said, like Everflowing Stream album cover.
Oh
It's a print
wow!
of it that I framed. That's my buddy Greg passed away many years ago, and my uncle John passed away many years ago,
My
man. So
condolences.
like Everflowing Stream. But yeah, I keep that up on my wall. My friend Paulo bought this for me
That
for
is
Christmas many years ago, man.
so. Yeah,
It's beautiful.
it is a very nice cover.
Hell
And
yeah.
my condolences to you.
Oh, thank you. Many years ago, many years ago. But I keep it up here on the like ever flowing stream thing, because from dream to dream, we have always been like an ever flowing stream.
Like an ever flowing stream. And there's
That's one of the first albums that I bought when I really got into death metal there was a record store around here called None of the Above Records, and they had a used CD rack. So, of course, as a teenager, I had a job at the local supermarket returning the carts. I didn't make a lot of money, so I would always get to the used rack when I went out to the CD store. And I got Dismember, Indecent and Obscene, and like an Ever Flowing Stream for like $2.99 each.
Yeah, I got that.
Used back in the '90s. I don't know who got rid of them. They were bugging, but since then, it's always been two of my
Why
favorite
would you
albums.
get rid of Dismember? They're excellent, in my opinion. They are.
If you ever wanted to buy a bunch of classic death metal albums from the early '90s, all you had to do was go buy the used stuff in the late '90s, because apparently everyone just got out of death metal and got into new metal and hardcore in the late '90s. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I got to see Dismember actually in 2019 in Sweden.
Oh wow, yeah.
For Scandinavia Death Fest. They weren't the only band that I wanted to see. They had Benediction, which had David Ingram come back.
New album, solid.
Yeah, love it. It's in my collection.
Mm-hmm.
I might be doing I know it's a bit late to, but my favorite albums of 2020. But don't know.
Go for it, man.
I probably still will, because I got Undergang's new album as well.
You'll have less competition because everybody else dropped their best of 2020 a month ago.
Yeah, because I was still waiting for CDs to.
Yeah. There you go.
So I was like, okay, I might as well do it. But then someone might comment saying, "No one's already done this." I haven't.
Yeah. Who cares, man?
Thought I'd show this as well. There they are again.
Yeah.
And it was all them.
Excellent band.
And it was all them. It was no new members, all original members, all these guys there.
Yeah.
Which was absolutely brilliant. So I got to meet most of them.
Their drummer, Fred Espy, actually, I believe he lives in New York here now. Before the pandemic, he was doing sound engineering at a club here in New York.
Yeah, that's why I got to meet him. I got a picture of him.
Nice guy. I met him once or twice. Yeah.
This man.
Yeah. And I'm a big fan of their singer, Maddie. Their singer, Maddie. I always thought he was like an iconic.
Got a picture of him as well.
Yeah,
and I'm trying to remember which one out of these lot I got a picture of. It might have been. Oh, I can't remember the guitarist. Yeah, one of the guitarists. What's his name? Because if you watch the Casket Garden video, he wears a bullet belt.
Is it
Oh, what's his name? Should say his name. Should say the bloody names in here. Oh, come to me later on.
It's not David Blomquist, is it?
It might be. It might be. Yeah, it's him. I got a picture of. Yeah.
Okay, sick. I'm glad I didn't have to look at my CD to tell you that.
Yeah, him. It might have been him. Yeah. So it was him, Matty, and Fred. I got pictures with, and I got to speak with Matty for a bit.
Yeah, I would love to speak to one of those guys and get him on the show too.
Yeah,
That's the hardest part.
I haven't had them on here. I spoke to them while I was in Sweden, before I had this video series.
These are the two CDs I bought from the used rack all those years ago, man.
Those originals. That is awesome.
Yeah.
I also got their EP pieces.
Oh, like that.
yeah, I got that as well.
That's a sick picture right there. Look at that. That's a band picture.
Yeah, they look
that's awesome.
They're done up as zombies, basically.
Well, and look at that. I love how the artwork on this is like awesome, brutal death metal artwork, but it's really just a band photo. They just photo. Like they put themselves into it. You know, it's great.
It's like we don't need some artwork. We'll put ourselves in it.
Yeah, we'll just cut off our own heads.
Cut off our heads and tie our head together.
Carcass is using autopsy photos. We'll use our own autopsy photos.
We'll use our own. And one more, well, I should just show one more, is a British band. I only got to see him once before they split up. And that is Bolt Thrower.
Oh, yeah. Classic. Bolt Thrower, man. Yeah. I always love the cover art on that, too, because it just looks old school.
Yeah, the very first one. In battle, there is no law.
Yeah, dude. It's great because you can tell that, like, where it says in battle there is no law, and all the way on the back you can tell that's like drawn font, hand drawn lettering.
Yeah, because that's their old. Mm-hmm. And then they changed it for when they did Realm with Chaos. Obviously.
I got to tell you my obligatory story. In Maryland Death Fest 09, Asphyx canceled, and I got to see Bolt Thrower play 2 days in a row. Once outdoor and once indoor. It's like the highlight of my life.
Yeah, that happened with me with Dismember in 2019. They did 2 headline sets Not
Yes.
because one band pulled out, because they were scheduled to do 2 headline sets.
Yeah, because they could
So
just
I
do it.
got to see them twice the same
Yeah, man.
weekend. I was so
That's
happy.
great.
I was just
Awesome.
like, because I was meant to get a tattoo actually from a mate of mine, but I stupidly didn't look up the address and see where it actually was in the town that he's living in. So I went home, got on the train, saying I'll just have to reschedule it for another time. Looked on my phone, and then saw that Dismember were reforming and they're playing Scandinavia Death Fest. So I was like, I better get home soon, better get home soon, better get home soon, buy a ticket, buy a ticket. Yes, I bought a ticket.
Yeah, I know that. Remember that feeling? I want to feel that again, where you got to get a
You
ticket,
know,
man.
I just want to be able to be like, buy it, because I've bought tickets for shows that I think, well, they might go ahead, don't know yet. But then if I
It
buy a ticket and then that gig goes ahead, I'll just be like this. I don't want to go outside now. I'll just be too scared to
Well,
go.
yeah, that's a real thing too, man. Everybody's been cooped up in the house, and you like. I find myself like, do I want to go out to like a social situation, or do I want to go out? You know what I mean? It's like you got to go out again, man. Yeah, you get cooped up though, man. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
crazy.
mental, but hopefully it will happen again. We can all go to gigs and festivals and hang
Yeah,
out and stuff. Because I said to Ken on when I had him had him on before Camley, he was number 10. Ken was Camley was 11, and who did I have after that? But I know I had Chris Ryford from Autopsy.
yeah, I saw that too, man. Another guy I'd like to talk to, man. It's tough to just narrow down who. We only do 4 episodes a month on our show, so it's like I don't even know who to reach out to. I got a list of a million people I want to interview. You know?
Yeah, yeah. I just all I did was message some people,
Yep.
and then they just came back and said, "Sure, I'll do that." First one was David Gregor from Motorscold.
Isn't that great though? That like somebody that old school who's been in it that long will still just, yeah, sure, we'll do an interview.
I was
Like
just like,
that's underground.
I was just thinking to myself, he could have said no at any time, but he didn't. Same with Cam Lee, he could have just said no, that's not my sort of thing.
Yep.
But he did, and I'm happy he did, and I appreciate that from him, Chris Wyford, Chris Pavels, uh, David Gregor, trying to figure out the legends I had. John Mackin, JT, I had him on here.
Yeah.
I didn't do it
Yeah.
like this. I did live stream on my phone on Facebook, and I had him on the TV.
I saw that. Yeah. The Growl documentary was doing that for a while too, man.
Oh
You
yeah,
know?
he's recent. Cam started doing that, and I had him on like that as well. I thought
Yeah.
since he
Yeah.
does it that way, I'll do it that way for him.
Yeah. Yeah. It's cool. It's whatever way you want to do it, man.
Well, I do
It's
it
all
this
good.
way because it's just record it, put it up, done.
Yeah.
Because with live stream, sometimes it might cut out at any moment.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's we don't do stuff live for that reason. We like to produce it and take our time with all that stuff with our
Yeah,
stuff.
properly edit it, bring up any levels on voices, microphones, whatever.
It's fun. You talk about messaging people and them getting right back to you. One of the first, I guess, bigger names that I ever interviewed on our podcast was Steve Grimmett, from Grim Reaper, from
Oh,
from
no
over
Grim.
there in the UK, man.
Yeah, I know Grim Reaper.
Yeah, and I mean that's going back. I'm a little bit older than you, man, but
Yep.
uh, I love a lot of that old school '80s stuff, man, and he got back to me within like 5 minutes. Sure, let's do it. And then we actually booked him and talked to him, and we had a big technical problem on our end. We had to reschedule, and he was all good, man. He was no problems. He gave us the benefit of the doubt, and he was a real. And then actually before the pandemic, Grim Reaper, they put out Steve Grimmett's Grim Reaper put out an album about 2 years ago or so, and they toured the states to promote it, and we got to see him perform on Long Island and meet him, man. It was really
Oh,
really cool, man. Real down to earth guy, man. Good people.
that is cool, definitely. And
Yeah, yeah,
before we
nice
get
guy,
onto the
man.
podcast, you said you're in bands, which
Yes,
I was looking up. I just thought I'd check it out. I just copied and pasted one of the bands. Is that Artificial Brain? Is it?
that's it. Yep.
And I'm thinking, because I always find bands, and I'm like, oh, I got to find out all these new bands now, and then you mentioned Afterbirth, and I always go on Metal Archives to see what genres they are, or what genres they were and what they are now. It says brutal death metal earlier, now progressive brutal death metal.
Yeah,
I was like,
I think that's
progressive,
fair for Afterbirth.
progressive
Yeah,
brutal death metal. Okay, I know technical death metal, slamming death metal, but progressive.
yeah.
It
Well,
sounds interesting.
I think if you listen to the album, we just put out the album Four Dimensional Flesh on Unique Leader Records. I think
Oh
if you
yeah,
listen
unique
to
leader. Yeah,
that,
they all.
you'll I think it's fair to call it progressive death metal, because progressive brutal death metal, because the vocals are guttural, the slams are there, it's brutal. But and I'm not one of the guys playing the instruments, I'm the vocalist, so I feel like at liberty to say this. Those guys are doing really inventive, different stuff musically, so it is progressive, definitely, man. And the older material, I the whole story with Afterbirth is they were around since like 94 and then broke up.
90, yeah, from
And
94 to 95.
and I wasn't involved in the band back then, obviously, but when they did get back together in the 2011, 12-ish, whatever, things didn't work out with their original singer. And may he rest in peace. He's passed on since then. But after a long period of time of being an instrumental band and not having a singer, they kind of gradually brought me in, at first as a session guy to record the album, and then now I'm a full-fledged member of Afterbirth. We play shows, and we've written 2 albums and all that sort of thing. So
Yeah, that's awesome. And who would you say your main band is? Like the main
huh.
band you're in the most?
Well, it would be. I mean, if I really had to pin it down, it would have to be Afterbirth, because from my perspective, Afterbirth rehearses regularly. Like I said, before the pandemic, Afterbirth was in the studio once a week rehearsing. And
Uh,
since a few weeks ago, or maybe a few months ago at this point, when we felt, the studio opened back up and we could take whatever precautions and we could rehearse again, we've been rehearsing regularly. Um, and maybe somebody younger than me that grew up in this generation might feel differently, but to me, being in a room in a rehearsal space and jamming with the band and making the music all together like once a week or at least a few times a month is the biggest part of being in a band for me, consistently. You know what I mean? Because like with Artificial Brain, as much as I love that band, I don't see those guys. We don't talk much. Everybody's one of those guys lives in Denmark now. One of those guys lives in another. A few of those guys live spread out.
yeah. So
And
there's David Ingram. He lives in Denmark.
yeah. So with Artificial Brain, as much as I take the vocals and the lyrics just as seriously, and all that sort of thing, like that band is more of a project that comes together when it does. Whereas Afterbirth, we all live in the same county. We all rehearse in the same room, once a week or at least 2 or 3 times a month, and it's just consistent like that. So that's like it takes up more of my physical time. Whereas
Yeah,
and like Buckshot Facelift and Reeking Aura, which are 2 bands I'm in that have like pretty much the same lineup, give or take 1 or 2 guys. One's more of a grindcore band, one's a death metal band. Those bands don't rehearse as often. We talk, we're friends, we have a lot of ideas that we kick back and forth, but it's just like I said, with the pandemic and the travel restrictions, it's harder to physically get into a rehearsal room. So Afterbirth is definitely my main band because I the 4 of us get together the most.
yeah.
You
And
know?
I just went on YouTube to go on my history to see what bands I've heard. Just put Afterbirth in, and I heard their '94 demo.
Yeah,
So I know
that
Afterbirth.
Psychopathic Embryo. That's what the
Yeah.
original singer Matt,
Oh,
rest in peace.
I know. Yeah, may he rest in peace.
Yes, yeah.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, I thought Afterbirth. And then I looked at it, I was like,
There's
I know this band.
Well, there's a lot of people who don't realize that either that the band's been back together and has put albums out, or that it's the same Afterbirth as back in the day.
Yeah,
So there's that. But yeah, that Psychopathic Embryotomy demo, that's one of the first death metal recordings that my friend Adam made for me back when I was a kid and I was getting into all this stuff. So it
yeah,
kind of came full circle for me with actually joining Afterbirth.
yeah. It all makes sense in the end. Yeah, I looked at the original vocalist Matt Duncan.
Matt Duncan, yeah, he passed away a few years ago, man.
Yeah,
Rest in peace to him,
yeah.
man. Yep.
May he rest in peace. And also, I looked
Yeah.
at guest session. They had that list. Internal Bleeding.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. There's actually a
I
YouTube
thought he did
video.
something with Internal Bleeding. I thought I've heard that name before. I thought, has he done something else?
Well, I don't know. There's definitely a chance he's been on Internal Bleeding recordings from years ago. I don't know that off the top of my head, but there's a YouTube video that you could look up from Internal Bleeding in the '90s where Matt comes on and you see that Matt Duncan sing a song with them. I think it might have been Anointed in Servitude. It was one of the old ones
That's my
from way
favorite.
back in the old days. You know what I mean? So they were like hand in hand. Suffocation, Internal Bleeding, Pyrexia, Afterbirth. Those bands would play a lot of shows together in that early '90s era here on Long Island. You know what I
Definitely.
mean? That's like the foundation of Long Island death metal.
Yeah, I forgot to mention two other bands from New York: Cannibal Corpse and Meverick Creation.
Oh yeah, well, see, that's where you get into the upstate thing because those bands were from. Don't quote me. I want to say like the Buffalo, Rochester
Yeah,
area, I
but
believe.
Cannibal Corpse is from Buffalo. And I
Yeah,
think Meverick's from the same area, or they might be Rochester.
yeah. That is actually believe that's where New York is crazy because it's the same state, but that's like 9 hours away. That's like almost in Canada, and it's because the state of New York has this huge chunk of land that goes all the way up to like the Canadian border,
Yeah,
and then New York City and Long Island is like a little tiny chunk right at the bottom of all that on the East Coast here.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's strange. But Cannibal Corpse and Malevolent Creation, I didn't realize, but there was a big thing where in the late '80s, early '90s, people were moving from all over the country to go down to Florida because of that big death metal gold rush that was going on, where there were
Cannibal Corpse
tons of
did
bands
that.
and whatever. So yeah, were you talking about Buffalo and Rochester? I have friends and family up there, and I've traveled up there over the years, and it's like it could take you 9 hours sometimes. 6, 7, 8, 9 hours, depending on traffic and weather and things like that, man, to get up there. So it's pretty
Yeah,
far away, and that's what when you talk about. Then you talk about like immolation, incantation, mortician. That's a little bit closer to me, but it's still maybe a good 2 hours away or so. So New York is a big spread out state. Like you could drive to Boston, Massachusetts quicker than you could drive up to Buffalo, New York. It's funny like that.
that's mental. Yeah, and I mentioned Maverick Creation because there's someone from that band we lost as well, and that's Brett Hoffman.
Yeah, yeah. Rest in peace to him. Yeah,
Uh,
just
uh,
last year, right?
he
A
died
while
in
ago.
2018.
Wow, yeah, time flies. Yeah.
I was just when I saw that because the last time I actually saw Brett Hoffman do anything, and I actually got to see Maverick Creation before he passed away, was
Okay.
in 2015 because they were on tour with Grave. So I got to
Good
see
lineup.
Grave for the first time and Maverick Creation for the first time, and I got to fist bump um, Brett Hoffman's fist. Like we did a fist bump. You just
Yeah. Yeah.
slightly bent down, did that, and I was like, "Fuck yeah!"
Well,
I
now you're glad you were there to do it, man.
was
You
like, if I
know
didn't
that's
go, I was like, "Oh crap!" I didn't meet him. I did actually
I
get to meet him. I met the bass player, but I didn't get to meet him.
yeah.
Oh, what's the bass
Yeah.
player's
Well,
name? From Maverick
that
Creation.
one I don't know off the top of my head.
I think it's Jason something.
I'm not sure. They've had a lot of different lineup stuff going on,
Anyway,
but
it'll come to me later because I process all this information about different bands. I forget about I forget all the other names from
tell
other
me
bands
about
that
it.
I like. I'm just like, what's his name again?
Yeah.
It's like if I forgot my favorite member from Cannibal Corpse, Alex Webster. I'm like, who's the bassist again?
Yeah, yeah,
I'm a bass
yeah. Those
player. I
guys have been
shouldn't be
doing
doing that.
forever.
And I was watching. Obviously, I was watching Cam's videos, and he had someone else who was very, very big on getting a lot of those big bands down to like Long Island, Rhode Island, wherever. I'm just trying to think where in New York. Might have been Long Island or Rhode. Is Rhode Island and Long Island
No,
not
that's a
connected?
common. Yeah, that's a common thing. Rhode Island is its own state.
That's his own state. I thought. Oh, I was trying to
That's
remember it. Was Rhode Island its
yeah,
own state or was it part of New York?
yeah. No, Long Island is an island outside of New York City that has two counties. It's part of New York, but Rhode Island is its own. And it's funny because Long Island is bigger than Rhode Island, but Rhode Island is its own state.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
nice up
That's
there.
what I was trying to think. I was like, because when I heard Long Island, Rhode Island, and I was just like, are they both in New York or was one its own state?
Well, because then also in New York we have Staten Island, and there's a
Staten
few
Island, I
more.
was thinking that.
There's a couple of islands in New York. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was just like, okay, now I know,
Yeah.
because I remember reading that, I was like, okay, that makes sense. Now I'm like, oh shit, which one's its own state? It's Rhode Island.
A lot
But
of good bands from there.
all good, yeah, definitely. And I'm trying to remember where he's from. Isn't it? He goes by the name Jimmy Fleet, and he's in the band Phlegm.
Yeah, Flem was Rhode Island.
Yeah,
That's what I
Rhoda.
was.
All right, that's what he
That's
was
what when
there.
you were talking about Rhode Island, that's what I was thinking of because they're one of
I
the
was
more
trying to remember
notable
where Phlegm was
old school names.
based,
Yeah,
and
yeah, they're
he
one of the
was saying,
more notable old school names from Rhode Island that I know about. Yeah,
yeah,
definitely
he was
sick band.
saying to Cam, who's doing the Growl documentary, that he got all these different bands to play Rhode Island, like Cannibal Corpse, Obituary, Mortar Skull. I think he got Carcass down there a few times,
Hmm.
and Bolt Thrower and bands like that. And he was just so dedicated to the scene. He just wanted all his favorite bands and get all these bands, even putting his own band on the bill as well.
Yeah, there's Afterbirth has a good story. I don't know. I would imagine it probably would have been a show that guy booked. I don't know how many
Yeah,
people were
yeah,
booking
I love to
underground
hear
death
it.
metal shows up there. It's not a big place in the '90s, but Afterbirth played a show up in Rhode Island that they always tell me about. Obviously, long before I was ever involved in the band, in the early '90s. They talk about going up there with internal bleeding and
Yeah,
playing a show, and I guess they were all a lot younger, and they all got very drunk. I guess that show or whatever, however the story goes. But yeah, I've heard about it.
yeah, because he was talking about with Cam, like with Cam, and saying, "Oh, you got all these bands," and then I think when I was watching the video, I trying to remember if he mentioned Pyrexia or not.
They would have been around. They
They
would have
would have,
been right
yeah,
in the
they
mix
were
back then.
around in the
Yeah,
early 90s
absolutely,
because
man.
they
Yeah,
released their
like,
first album around.
oh yeah, definitely when Sermon was going on. Yeah, because
Yeah,
Suffocation, Pyrexia, and Internal Bleeding. That's like the big three of Long Island death metal. And
yeah,
they were all playing those shows back in the '90s all together and stuff. And even nowadays, still, man, that those are the three big bands from Long Island.
yeah. I've seen Suffocation. I don't know how many times now. First time I saw them was Bloodstock 2010. I was still
Hmm.
slightly asleep, getting up because they were starting at like 12 o'clock, 11
Oh,
o'clock in the
that's a
morning
tough
to like
spot.
12 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah,
And as soon as they came on, I was just like, I'm awake, I'm awake.
yeah. That'll Frank Mullen will wake you up.
Yeah, that's when I saw him with Frank, and then now Frank's not in the band anymore. It's
Yeah,
what's his
yeah,
name, Ricky from Discord.
yeah. Ricky from Disgorge. I think the guy Charlie was in there for a while, but now it's Ricky. Yeah, I've seen him with Ricky. He does a great job.
Yeah, he does. I've spoken to him a couple of times when they came to Bristol.
Yeah,
He's all right to chat to. He seems pretty, chilled out.
yeah. I don't know the guy personally, but I've seen him perform with Suffocation, and those are big shoes to fill. He
Oh
cut
yeah,
it. So
definitely. Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
I was thinking to myself, it is. Yeah, it is Ricky. I'm not making it up. And because the one I spoke to the most was Terence Hobbs,
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's like Mr. Suffocation, man.
Mr. Suffocation. I was just like talking to him, saying like, "Oh yeah, I remember seeing this video on YouTube where you said suffocation ass," and he's like, "Yeah, suffocation ass." He's like, "I don't know what
yeah.
you're doing. I think you were drinking."
He, I've been to. He has a with the pandemic, obviously. I don't think it's going on, but he for a long time he would have a big like party at his house on Long Island with like kegs and bands playing and stuff like that. It was a real fun time, man. And you'd see a lot of local metal and hardcore people hanging out. Real good time. You have like food, big kegs of beer, and Suffocation would play in the backyard with. You can look on YouTube, Hobbs Fest. There's YouTube videos of bands playing in his backyard over the years, these parties and stuff.
Wow,
Yeah,
wow,
good time, man. Yeah.
that'd be great. That'd be great for mainly my death metal band to do. Just play his backyard. That'd be great.
I'm thinking with the pandemic and all this stuff going on, outdoor shows might be the way to go. To come back at first anyway. To come back, like
Because
like
you're out in the open, you're not too close to people unless you're in the mosh pit.
I mean, it seems like it would be a little bit more practical in today's climate than like 50 people crammed into a pub sweating on one another. The outdoor shows at least you can like social distance and if people want to choose to be away from the whole crowd, they can and still watch
Yeah,
the
because
band.
there
It's
was a festival in Italy. They were doing it last year. They had people sat down at the festival
yeah,
wearing their
yeah,
masks and
yeah.
stuff. So they did something there. They did the social distancing, and I think a
And,
festival in Finland done that as well.
I mean, look, not ideal, but if that's if at this point, I would gladly do that. I would gladly sit in a like the boy in the bubble movie. I would gladly sit in a bubble to
Oh,
watch
Bubble
metal
Boy.
bands now if I had the option because it's
I
been so long.
yeah,
You
but
know?
I think it's called. I know what film you're on about. I can't remember
Yeah,
if it's called
yeah.
Bubble Boy or
Boy
Boy.
in the yeah, whatever it was.
Jake Gyllenhaal. I know that.
If I had to do that to watch a show, I would do it for the night. You
Yeah,
know, just
I
to
mean,
watch
I
the
was
show.
gonna do that at a pub here in London because Marduk was supposed to be playing the Electric Ballroom here in London, not here in Bristol. It's not in Bristol. It's in London,
Mhm.
but it got cancelled because of the new lockdown measurements and everything. So couldn't do it in the end.
Yeah,
I was just like,
yeah.
oh, that sucks. But I guess
It's
we got to keep safe, keep everyone healthy and all that. You know.
Yeah, it's like you say, it's almost to the point where it's like it's going to be tough to come out of the house because I'm so used to like I'll pick up a couple of beers or I'll make a pot of coffee and then I'll watch a live stream of a band or I'll watch a concert on YouTube or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of live stream gigs and
Yeah,
stuff because I
yeah,
watched a bunch of Devin Townsend's live streams. I'm
yep,
looking at his set list from 2019 that I got. Um,
yeah.
because I actually met him and he had some set lists signed already and he just gave us a bunch and he signed my Empath CD, which was his newer album at the time.
Hmm.
And it actually worked because he put Devin and it just blends well because it's a white cover, a white booklet. So it just
Yeah.
goes so well. I was like, well, it's still staying in the case. It's not coming out, you know.
Yeah, man.
And
Yeah,
I
I've
got
heard he's a nice guy, man. I'm not
oh
into
oh he
so
is
so much of his music, but I respect it, man.
yeah he's
Guy's no slouch for sure.
very very down to earth. I gotta say, very down to earth. And you know, I mean, I listen to a lot of death metal. Obviously, I listen to a lot of stuff. Obviously, in my own backyard, England. A lot of stuff from your country,
Hmm.
not just well all over like Florida, New York, California. Because I found Soul Development from LA because of Ken, because I think he mentioned him. I think. Witch Vomit, which is another band I got into,
Yeah, yeah.
and an old school band from their neck of the woods. I think Witch Vomit's from Pennsylvania. I'm trying to remember,
I'm not too up on them, man. But
but I know this band's from that like Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And that's Mythic.
oh, Mythic.
Yeah,
Yeah, the old school band, all women in the band.
all women. Yeah, and a
Yeah,
couple of them were in Decada.
yeah. I interviewed two of them on the
Yeah,
Heavy
I
Hole
was looking
show.
on the Spotify and seeing who you interviewed, and I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah,
Let me
the
listen
one
to a lot.
girl, Sharon, she's a woman from Derkata, and Mary Bielik, who was in Mythic and Derkata. We interviewed both of them. They were cool to talk to. Mary Bielik, she's in a couple of punk bands and stuff like that too, man. She's still pretty active out there.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
she's still got all that. So I'm just looking because I just remembered I got a 7-inch signed by Morgoth in here,
Oh wow. All right, man.
and they're no longer going. So may that band rest in peace. Not all, I know
Yeah. Well,
they're not dead. I
well,
mean the band's done, they're disbanded. So may that band rest. And that those
didn't one of
guys.
those guys pass away just recently, like a year or two ago?
Now you,
I feel like I thought I heard one of those guys passed away maybe like a year or
now
two
you're
ago.
making me think.
Yeah. Maybe I'm thinking
um,
of another band. I thought it was the lead guitarist, like the main
uh,
guitarist.
Morgoth. Oh, one died in 2018. Yeah,
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
heart failure. Well, that sucks.
Yeah.
Fuck's sake. Why are people
Uh,
dying?
yeah.
Especially when it's someone in the metal scene, it hurts a lot more. I have to say.
Well, I always I mean the first one that really like doing the podcast, I always when if somebody passes away, I always go, damn, I wish I interviewed them and got their story. And I remember really thinking that for the first time when Sean Reinert from Cynic passed away,
That
because
really hurt me in the feels.
I mean, beautiful band, and we had talked about Cynic on the show, and I was planning on reaching out, and the guy passed away, and I was just like, damn, because not even, not, I mean, obviously there's a degree of selfishness to it where I want to get the story for my platform, but also just to, I look at it as like I would love to preserve their legacy in whatever way I can, whatever little way
Yeah,
I can, and preserve their story.
I
So
think that's why I'm doing these, because
yeah,
all of those musicians like John or Chris, any of them could just drop dead at any moment.
any of us,
And if I
especially, I
didn't
mean, now,
didn't chat to him, I'd be like, I wish I did now.
yeah, now more than ever in this day
I
and
want
age, man.
ever. Then I'm like, then I can share that video on my post on my Facebook and everything. And I
Yeah,
got to chat to him.
yeah, and
Chat.
I mean, it's funny because there's sometimes people, even me, I'm in a few death metal bands that aren't even like, it's not like I'm in Cannibal Corpse or Morbid Angel. I'm in a few underground death metal bands, and every once in a while, someone who's a little bit younger or more naive will be like, "Oh, do you make your living off of death metal?" Or so, and I'm like,
Well, here's the thing: you don't.
well, not even. I mean, even the bands you think do, they don't make as
They
much
don't.
of a living as
They
you think they
all
do.
they all
You
got
know?
jobs. They go back to
Yeah.
the toy.
the my whole point in bringing that up just being that, like, these interviews, your YouTube channel, my podcast, other people's platforms, I really feel like it is important because in death metal and underground metal and hardcore punk, whatever, underground music in general, even if it's hip hop, whatever, if it's independent music that isn't getting that huge corporate commercial push, artists need a platform. You're
Definitely.
not, the main reason why I do my podcast is because I wanted, like, I watch a lot of, there's a YouTube channel called Vlad TV, and he mainly interviews hip hop artists and kind of true crime personalities, right? He
Oh,
doesn't do metal. But I think he's a really good interviewer at what he does, and I wanted that type of content for the underground metal bands that I love.
yeah.
So it's like, I was like, who's interviewing Monstrosity about the history of the band? Who's interviewing Scattered Remnants about the history of the band? Like, that's the interviews I want to do, is like, or like, we talked to Dan Swano, the Swedish death metal producer,
Holy
multi-instrumental guy.
shit!
I
Yeah.
was I was like, I want to pick that guy's brain.
Yeah, I want to pick his brains. And you said,
Nice guy.
oh, cool. Yeah. What? I'm trying to remember if I've seen him in any interviews, but he just seemed very like open to talk about his bands and his own musical tastes and everything else. And
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy who should have an ego, but doesn't. He's very down to
doesn't
earth and
have an
easy to
ego.
talk to.
And
He,
yeah, no, carry on.
No, I was gonna say he would have every right to have an ego, but he doesn't.
Yeah, no, well, I don't think in metal bands you should have an ego anyway. I mean, you get all
Doesn't
these
work out.
bigger bands like not in metal who have all these egos saying, "Oh, I'm the best." It's like, sorry, you're a person like everybody else.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about metal musicians. They're just people who make a living who make a living when they're not on tour.
Hmm.
It's not like the big pop stars who make money off their music. In metal, we don't really make money off this music.
Yeah, and I mean, I have a lot of respect. I mean, as a vocalist, I don't want to say this like the wrong way, but like I have a lot of respect for the guitarists
Yeah,
and the drummers. Like I know, like there's probably vocalists that put a lot of time and money and effort and everything into doing vocals. I'm not saying that, and I'm not saying I don't put a lot of effort into what I do,
yeah,
but these guys, I mean, just naturally, people who play a guitar and buy amplifiers and go on tour with their gear, you put a lot of money into that, and it's a more fragile, type of thing. You know what I mean? And like to
yeah,
to just
definitely.
do it, you're paying out of your own pocket from your day job for all that
Yeah,
equipment.
that's how you pay
You
for all the
know,
equipment from your
because
day
I've
jobs.
seen bandmates of mine, your guitar gets damaged, your snare drum gets stolen out of the back room. That's happened to bands I've been in and bandmates of mine. And generally speaking, all I have to do is show up with, if I want, a microphone and a bottle of water, and I'm good to go. So
Yeah,
I respect those guys for putting it on the line like that,
yeah,
investing in.
definitely. And well, because without the guitarist, bassist, drummer, and it'll just be you on the stage. Like,
It would be like a
where's
rapper,
my
you know.
where's my
Yeah,
band?
yeah, man. I would just,
I need a
that's
brutal riffs.
that's why I think being a rapper is a little bit tougher on stage because it's just you and the
It's,
DJ,
it's
man.
just them
At
and
least,
the DJ and the backing
yeah.
tracks, and they may never work.
maybe some girls dancing in a bodyguard or something. Then
Well,
that's fun. But
that's about they're like those tracks. Like if their backing tracks just kaput, you're like,
yeah, that that'll happen. That's what I
oh
mean. Like
crap,
it's
what am I
always
gonna do?
I've always thought I had a little bit of an advantage getting up on stage with four other dudes that I'm friends with behind me playing their instruments. You know what I mean? Rather than a solo singer or something like that. So
Yeah, definitely. And I just found some more vinyls. I haven't found the
awesome.
more goth one. This is more of a picture disc one. Obituary.
Obituary. See, that's cool, man. I
Executioner
Executioner's
Returns.
Return. You know what? I do have a vinyl collection. I don't like picture discs. I'm gonna be honest. To each
I
his
think it's the
own.
only one I got.
Well, you know what I found out about the hard way? I bought a picture disc of the Morbid Angel Kingdom Disdain, the most recent one,
Oh yeah.
and I was listening to it back, and I was like, that audio sounds a little funky. And I talked to the guy at the record store, and he filled me in that picture discs sometimes, if you look it up, they can have lesser audio quality because of the way they manufacture them with the picture in it, I guess.
Okay, that I didn't
So
know that.
when I found that out, just the way my head works, I made like a hard left, and I was like, no more picture discs. I
No
want to
more
listen
picture
to it.
discs. I think it's the same.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it looks cool when you hang it up on the wall, dude. I'm not gonna
Yeah, I'm
fault that.
most likely just gonna hang it up on the wall and buy it just like yellow vinyl in here.
Yeah, man. And it's also some people are pickier than others. I'm a little bit anal retentive about certain things with music.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to mention another musician we've also lost in the metal scene, and there he is.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Who's that? Ralph Santola?
oh yeah, we
No,
lost. There's Ralph down there, and there's
Ralph
Frank.
Santola. Yeah. Oh,
Well, we
yeah.
lost both.
That's right.
We
They
lost
both.
both of them.
That's right.
We
Oh
lost
my
both of them
God.
because he had a long battle with cancer,
You're right. I forgot about that, man.
and
Rest in
Ralph
peace to him.
died.
Yeah.
I think if he had cancer or
We
I can't
we had
remember.
Trevor. I believe he did get sick. Trevor Perez from Obituary was on our show a few weeks ago,
Yeah,
and I had asked him about both of those guys. Yeah. That was sad, man.
just
Crazy when you look at stuff like that, man. Not to bring it back to wrestling, but I don't. The numbers change every time because wrestlers are always dying, unfortunately. But like I remember a few years ago, I looked it up, and like WrestleMania 7 was the WrestleMania with the most deceased performers and commentators
yeah.
out of any WrestleMania at that point. Now it's probably some other WrestleMania because other people have passed away. And
Mm.
it's like you go back and watch, and it's like almost every match, like both guys are dead. The I think the announcers were like Bobby Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon. They're dead. It's just like so sad, man.
Yeah,
And
it's just
you listen to you could listen to that album, and it's like, yeah, those two guys are they're not with us anymore, man. It's a testament to their work, but it's sad, man.
yeah. Again, like I say, like Brett Hoffman as well. You can listen to all the albums he was on, and well, you're not going to hear that live ever again, and that's the sad thing about it.
Yeah.
But you'll still be able to hear his vocals on those albums, and they're going to be there for ever, basically.
Well, yeah. Look at Death. I mean,
Chuck,
he. I. I mean, don't get me wrong. I own every Death album. I love Death. Top to
got one
bottom.
more to get.
But it's crazy to me how on top of and relevant to the death metal scene Chuck has stayed since his death. I mean, nowadays he's, you know, Death is just right there. You see everyone wearing Death shirts. It's like just as big as I don't know, Cannibal Corpse or Suffocation or Morbid Angel. Like any band that's out there actively putting in work today, Death is like their name is just as big. It's like and rightfully so. I'm not arguing against it. It's just it's a feat, and it shows the relevance.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm just gonna ask if you know this band at all.
Abomination isn't that Paul
Paul
Speckman from
Speckman.
Masters Band?
Yeah, I
I
actually bought these from him over
okay.
Facebook as he was selling them, and I thought, can I get this one and another one, which I'll show you in a minute? Because I actually got to meet him when they were playing with a Bristol-based band here, thrash metal band called Onslaught.
Is that the first Abomination album?
I think this is the first one they released.
Yeah, the
I want to say.
self-titled. That's awesome because that one, the second Abomination album is a little bit like tighter and groovier, but that one is like frantic and kind of like the rhythms are kind of weird and it's a little techy. That's a sick album, dude. Hell yeah.
I just saw it because I got him as a friend on Facebook, and I want to get him
Hmm.
on here at some point, but it just depends if he's busy or not. Um, I just saw it, I thought, oh, I might want to buy these.
I might want to buy them. And then now I got to look because I interviewed him a while back, a few weeks ago, and I kind of whenever I interview somebody, I binge all their music, over a few days to kind of get ready for the interview, man. So that Abomination hit, that's a good album, actually, man. It's really weird. It's kind of like frantic, and the rhythms are like crazy, but it's good.
And and this one,
Um,
that's
that's the second one, Tragedy
second,
Strikes, right? Yeah, and
Tragedy Strikes.
that one's a little bit of a
Again,
different sound than the first one. It
yeah,
was like groovier, right?
yeah, because I heard bits and pieces, I heard like various songs from it on YouTube, and it's like,
Yeah,
yeah, I forgot about this.
those are nice vinyls, though, man. I gotta hit Paul up. I might have to get that.
Oh
Sick
yeah,
logo,
I just was like, I saw and I thought, well, I like Master. I've heard Funeral Bitch. I've heard Death Strike. I haven't got into that stuff, and I thought, I know Abomination. And instead of me trying to go on Discogs or something to find them, I just saw we had vinyl, and I thought, I'm buying that.
Yeah, yeah, man. Yeah, he's a down to earth guy too. Speaking of guys who've been around forever
Oh
and
yeah,
metal,
I
and
was speaking to him when they played
nice
Bristol. I
guy.
was just like, and I'm thinking, this guy is so down to earth.
Yep, yep.
Such a cool guy.
He had
He's
some
a
really cool
very
story when we interviewed him. He had some funny stories from his time in the States and moving to the Czech Republic and all
oh
that
yeah, because
stuff,
it's
man.
there, yeah.
He's yeah, well, yeah, he's from Chicago, from the Chicago area, and he moved out to the Czech Republic. I mean, not he wasn't old, but a little bit later in life. He was an established adult, and he kind of just moved to the Czech Republic to do metal, and he did it. I mean, I
Yeah,
respect
and
that.
there you go. And you'll know this band, Blood Feast.
Oh yeah, yeah, classic old school American band.
Yeah.
Yep.
Kill for Pleasure. I found this at a record fair here in Bristol. And I thought,
Okay.
I just looked, I was just like, I'm buying that.
Well, that's Blood Feast. Admittedly, I'm not a huge Blood Feast fan. I respect. I've seen them live. They're great live.
Mm,
But their cover art is always has that kind of like almost like one of those old horror comic book type of vibes, like a comic book type of vibe
like
that I love.
Creep Show, Tales from the Crypt. Sort of.
Yes, yeah, yeah. I always like that. I like it when a death metal album or a thrash metal album has a little bit of a comic book cartoon type of vibe, but it's still dark.
Yeah, it's still, yeah, that's just, hang on, I'll get it up again. That's very comic book
Yeah.
esque.
Oh yeah, look at that, man. That looks like the Crypt Keeper.
Yeah,
Awesome.
this is from 1987.
Hmm. I got to revisit that. Now that I say I'm not such a huge fan of theirs, now I got to revisit it and eat my words because I'll
And,
probably enjoy it more.
yeah, and this one is one of my favorites as well.
There you go, man. Sepultura, dude. Now I gotta pull out some of my stuff, man. Hold on. I got this.
Well, I should have messaged you earlier saying pull some stuff out. I'm still trying to find that flipping. It might be stuck between our vinyl. Oh, probably won't find it. Only 7 inches.
This is my little
Paradise Lost.
Sepultura stack.
Paradise Lost. I'll just show quickly.
Oh yeah, good band, man.
Gothic.
Good band, Paradise Lost. That European kind of romantic death doom stuff I've been getting into a little bit more
I love
lately.
that stuff.
This is my I really only do the Cavalera Brothers Sepultura.
Yeah, I just stick with that and that's it.
Let me put it in order, man. I got I got Bestial Devastation,
I got Morbid Visions.
Yeah, I've got that on cassette, which I can't pull out right now. It's in the box. Then we go here.
Yeah, I have.
And then we go there. We got
Remains
joint. Come on, man! I go all the way with
this. I have that as well.
This is as far as I can. Well, actually, I'll go this, but then this is as far as I can go. I don't know if this is the double live Under a Pale Gray Sky.
I don't have that, but I do have Roots.
This was actually it was recorded at Brixton Academy in London in '96. and I got a bootleg. This is like the coolest thing in my Sepultura collection. It's a bootleg. This is a bootleg CD, allegedly bootleg CD, live in Milano,
Oh,
Italy,
oh
November
yeah.
16th, 93.
Of course they played there. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's I'm pretty sure it's some sort of weird bootleg, and it's like
I have
all old
absolutely no
songs.
bloody idea.
This is a really cool one, man. Yeah, look,
Yeah,
it's like a burnt CD. I got
of
this at
course.
the used CD store. I love bootlegs. Dude, I'm not going to spend crazy amounts of money on any type of music nowadays, just because I wouldn't be able to sleep with myself at night. But like, I will buy a bootleg before I will pay more for a bootleg before I pay for the original, allegedly.
And I'm going to show now a British band before you ask about the podcast and that. Um, Napalm Death.
Yeah, there you go. That's a great
From
album too.
Enslavement to
From Enslavement.
Obliteration. I mean, I love Scum. I love Homely Corruption, but this has to be my favorite.
I mean, look, I'm not going to sit here and diss Scum, especially on
There's
a British YouTube channel. But yeah, I would go with that out with Enslavement to Obliteration. Like Scum is great, but it's like it's very raw. It's not really the sound that I've come to love from Napalm Death. I mean, Enslavement to Obliteration is more proper Napalm Death, settling into who they were for me. You know what I mean?
pretty much from settling in and then carrying that sound off and
And
probably
I
just
really
evolving it
like.
a little bit more.
I, you know what I like? I thought Utopia Banished was pretty good. I thought what was the album? Not From Enslavement to, what's the one after From Enslavement to Obliteration?
Homely Corruption.
Yeah, Harmony Corruption is really good. I mean, they had such a good run, and then they had like a little dip with Diatribes in the '90s, and but then since they kind of made their comeback, they've been solid grindcore, dude. I mean, if
Solid
you take
grindcore.
Napalm Death's whole catalog, there's like this much grindcore and this much, kind of experimentation, weird
Yeah,
stuff.
definitely. And could mention one of my favorite grindcore bands from the States, and that's Repulsion.
Yeah, yeah, great band, Repulsion,
Love
man.
that band. Horrified is just an absolute classic.
Very influential, man. I think Repulsion should get more credit in terms of the drums.
Yeah,
I can't
definitely.
think of
No,
the
the drumming on that is insane.
Yeah, I can't think of the drummer's name offhand from Repulsion. I wish I
Oh, I
could,
remember it.
but I mean him, and then the guy from Brutal Truth on Extreme Conditions Demand Extreme Responses.
Oh, Dan Loker.
Was that I don't know if he was the drummer. I mean,
Oh, the
I could be
drummer
wrong.
from there. Oh God, what's his name?
But I'm just making the point that there weren't a lot of drummers playing that fast and tight and consistent as Repulsion and Brutal Truths. Obviously Repulsion had the one album, but Brutal Truth's first album,
Yeah, I'm trying to
back
remember
then.
the drummer now. From the Horrified album, not the one they got now. God, what's his bloody name? Drums. Oh, it was Dave. Oh, was it Dave Holland's Head?
Okay, yeah, I don't know.
That's their drum. That's their drum on the Horrified album, and obviously it's Scott on bass and vocals. Scott Carlson,
Yeah,
who's
I saw them at a Maryland Death Fest several years ago. It was a
yeah,
while back.
I saw him at a festival here that only lasted 2 years, and that was called Temples Fest. And they
Hmm.
were on the smaller stage because they had the big main stage in the big hall, and then had a smaller stage. And I spoke to Mike, the guitarist, beforehand. He was very
Okay.
nice to chat to.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
because
I
a
never
couple of
met
my
any of them, but
mates, because a couple of my mates got free entry because of him.
okay.
But I paid ticket full price. I thought ticket.
You ever hear of another U.S. band from back in the day called the Zombified Preachers of Gore?
Okay, that's another
They
one I need to check out.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't expect you to have heard about them. I mean, they're pretty obscure. They didn't do a whole lot. They had one release out by Wild Rags, which is a defunct label. But the reason that you could look it up probably on YouTube or whatever, the Zombified Preachers of Gore, it was an old school band that it was a little bit in that Repulsion vein. If you're a fan of Repulsion, I always recommend to check them out too.
I love Repulsion, so I'm just
Yeah, yeah. Zombified Preachers of Gore was cool, and they were just obscure. Like they were very early on. I think it was either the late '80s or the early '90s. They put out one album or like one EP, and and that was it, you know. But that really cool kind of Repulsion stuff, or early gore grind, grindcore, death. Back then, it was all the same thing.
All the same thing. And I was just thinking of other underground bands like Non-Slaughter and Necrophagia.
Unslaught, yeah, good bands, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
Necrophagia, man. That, you know, you talk about people we've lost. Killjoy from
Killjoy,
Necrophagia
I was
passed
just
away.
gonna say Killjoy. I was thinking,
And if there was one person I could interview, if you could tell me like one person from you know, one person who's passed away you could interview, I would pick Killjoy,
Killjoy.
because I would just love to pick that guy's brain about. And I've tried to hunt down some of the old original members of Necrophagia from, you know, from the '80s and stuff. Man, it's, you know, maybe one day I'll hear back, but I would love
Uh,
to talk to them about the experience of that band.
yeah, yeah, that would have been great as well. Just look on the Heavy Hole podcast on Spotify. I'm like, Killjoy. Oh wow.
Yeah. Well, the best we could do, man, is, you know, I'm not going to say any names because no, I haven't heard back from anyone, but I've tried to track
Yeah,
down some of
yeah.
the original people and some people who are around that. You know, like I trust me, man. If I want a story, or if I want to guest bad enough, I will do some internet stalking.
Internet stalking.
I try to get the guests. You know.
Yeah. And speaking of the podcast, how did Heavy Hole podcast form, and who came up with the name?
Well, Tom, my co-host Tom Saltman, came up with the name, and I guess it was kind of his idea that we all get together and do the actual podcast and call it the Heavy Hole. I met him a few years ago. Him and the two co-hosts I have on the show, Justin and Tom, they do all the audio engineering, they do all the visual stuff, a lot of the online content. They help with the research. So just because it's my voice going on the podcast, a lot of the time those guys are solid members of it, and I wouldn't be able to do it without them. And I met them a few years ago through local shows. They're from my town here, but they're a few years younger than me, so I never knew them in high school and stuff like that.
Uh,
And now, me being in my late 30s, them being in their early 30s, I think it works because the generation gap works on the show. They bring things to the table that I don't know about. I bring things to the table they don't know about, you know. But meeting those guys and starting to hang out with those guys at the local shows here on Long Island in New York, like maybe 3 or 4 years ago, it kind of evolved from there. And luckily, we started doing the show about a good year and a half before the pandemic. So, you know, we had time to establish ourselves and get our format worked out and everything before there was so much competition, you know.
yeah. And I've only heard that one episode with Ken because I thought I saw his name. I thought I'm gonna talk to Ken.
Yeah, shout to Ken, good guy, man. He was.
Well, I spoke. I think I don't know when you had him on the show, but I had it. Well, oh wait, it says 26th of November 2020. I don't know if you had him on that date or was it before that.
Yeah, well, yeah, that was for the. Well, we don't do anything live. We pre-record and produce all of our stuff.
Oh, okay.
And I think we put out that episode for Thanksgiving week because it was, you know, Uncle Ken's coming for Thanksgiving, you know.
Ken's coming Thanksgiving. Yeah, I had him back in. I had him back in July of
Yeah,
2020, and before we even did the chat, we had to test how Zoom was gonna work and everything. Luckily, it worked. And I asked him, "Oh, could you show some albums?" Which I should have done with you now. I'm like, I plan these, and then other times I'm like, other times I plan it, other times I just wing it and see what happens.
Yeah, you know, there's always interviews that like the next day I'll wake up and be like, I should have asked that, I should have asked this, you know. Yeah.
Oh well. And I'm just looking at all the people you've had on here so far. You've had Cryptic Shift on here.
Yeah, we talked to the boys.
Great band.
Good guys.
Great band.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah, Visions from Enceladus, great album from last year. One of my favorites from last year.
Dan
I got it up here
yeah,
somewhere.
Yeah, because I'm looking at what episodes I downloaded, and Dan's episode I downloaded.
Yeah, we have. I mean, at this point, you know, I love looking at our roster because we've had a lot of great bands on. You know,
Yeah.
we've had a lot of really good guests, man.
Yeah, Dean Lamb from Archspire.
Archspire, yeah, no, yeah, funny guy,
fantastic
nice guy.
band. I saw him twice when they played in Bristol.
Yeah, he's got his own YouTube and lots of, you know, he does the social media thing like crazy too.
Yeah, Dean's I want to say the vocalist.
I believe he's the bass player,
Bass
vocalist. Player. Yeah, he also, yeah, well, he
bass player vocalist. That's right.
Yeah, and
because the
he's got a
vocal.
YouTube. His wife is a very accomplished guitarist, and he does like a bunch of YouTube stuff with his wife.
Oh, awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
because the vocalist in Archspire is. It's like, what? How is he doing this?
I'm laughing, but I can't do it. So hey, more power to him.
Obviously, Mary on here as well. I downloaded that episode because I want to hear her story. I want to try and get on here, but I don't know. She might be
Yeah, she's
busy.
nice. Reach out.
She's just. I sent her a message. Yeah, I don't think she's seen it.
Well, that happens too, man. There's been a few people where I'll just wait. I'll wait a month and a half, 2 months, and then I'll just shoot a little note back. Hey, just checking in. If you want to do an interview, all the best.
Yeah,
I don't pester people, but I'll wait a few months and just hit them up because sometimes you forget.
yeah. I might leave her a message after this and just see if she's up for it. If not, then
Yeah.
not. If it's not this month, next month. There you go.
And you never know. Sometimes people got a lot going on, and then a few months later, they're in a different place. Who
Yeah,
knows?
I'll just let her do her own thing, and then I'll get back to her.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Browning, you've had.
He was. I really enjoyed doing that interview. He was a great guest, man, and
I would love to have him.
he didn't pull any punches. He he was a nice guy. He didn't seem bitter, didn't seem angry about anything, but he also, he wasn't afraid to call it how it was in terms of some of his ex-bandmates and things they did to him and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I thought that was an interesting story.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, because he's been through a lot in his.
Yeah, well, those
career.
guys. I mean, I haven't interviewed the other guys from Nocturnus, so I wouldn't want to. I don't know their side of things. I only know Mike's side of things, but
yeah, you don't want to.
there's definitely some drama there, and I thought it made for a good interview.
Yeah, you don't want to stir the pot, as it were.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I always say it respectfully. You know what I mean? I always tell people, like, look, I'm asking you this respectfully. If you don't want to talk, and if somebody doesn't want to talk about it, that's fine. We've edited things out of interviews.
Yeah.
We've had people, say, hey man, like right when we get off the phone or something, we'll get a message. Hey man, maybe could you cut that part out? Or I don't want to come off like this. I don't want to say that about somebody. I don't want to give up my private information like I did there about my family. We cut stuff out all the time.
Yeah, because there were certain things with Cam Neo said, right, we're not going to talk about this or this or this.
Yeah.
Then I might say, oh, like I may ask him. I asked him about the recording for From Beyond, not with like just from his perspective, not from him with his former bandmates. I don't mean the relationship there. I just mean him doing his thing. And then he just joked around and said, I thought you said we were going to talk about it, and then I'm just kidding.
That's interesting because, see, I told you I reached out to him a while back, and then I reached out to him again. He must have maybe I rubbed him the wrong way with my message because he's probably used to people asking him about that because there's been documented drama through the years, obviously, with that band and with him. I don't know, I'm not going to say who's right or who's wrong. Yeah, but that's one of the things I want to talk to him about. So it's interesting to hear.
I didn't want to talk to him, ask him about like who's in the right, who's in the wrong, but then I just wanted to talk to him about how the whole death metal scene started and where he started, because he wasn't into metal, he's more into punk.
Well, what's funny, when I interviewed Terry Butler, who was in Massacre and is now an Obituary, he kind of just very gracefully and like maturely breezed over talking about Cam Lee or talking about Chris Barnes. So 6
feet under with him, yeah.
I can't say that he said anything bad about them, but he didn't want to. He didn't want to say anything really, so he just kind of let it fly, which is probably the most mature thing to do.
Yeah, when I mentioned that, I was just like, "Oh God, I'm in the shit now, aren't I?"
Hey man.
But no, he just went, "Nah, I'm kidding." And it's like, "Oh my fuck for that," because he's one of my favorite vocalists, and I don't want to piss him off.
I mean, he's pretty out there in public on Facebook with his beliefs anyway. So
that's not like it's a secret. I'm kidding. It's like,
it's not like it's a secret.
So good. Didn't piss you off. And I'm looking at the list again.
Cam Lee's Facebook page is a great source of amusement, man.
Yeah,
he tells it like it is.
Yeah, I just looking like saying like, oh fuck coronavirus, fuck all this, blah blah blah, and it's like,
well, he tells it how he sees it.
He tells it how he sees it,
Yeah,
And
maybe not necessarily how it is, but he definitely tells it how he sees it.
how he sees it.
No filter.
And I like the and I saw one picture of him. It
I'm
wasn't just
losing.
him. It wasn't just him on his own.
I'm losing the feed here, man.
You're losing the feed.
You're breaking up, man. I'm losing the feed.
Oh, that's weird.
I don't know if you can see me or hear me
Yeah,
now, but you're frozen.
Oh, I'm frozen. Oh my days, that is weird. Yeah. But can you at least hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you if you want to keep going.
Okay, if it's frozen on your end, it's fine on my end. You're still moving around.
Okay.
So yeah, I was gonna say, I've just seen Paul on here, Chris Pavel's on here.
Yeah.
There's a bunch. Yeah, Trevor Perez from Obituary, Lee Harrison from Monstrosity.
That was one I've been wanting to do for a long time. Lee from Monstrosity. Another guy that just got back to me real quick in a few minutes.
Yeah, Von Yun from Avidity.
From
wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Deaden. Yep, the old school.
Deaden and
yeah.
There's a lot of people in there, and I'm not gonna read them all out.
Well, it's like I said, we've been doing it for a little bit over 2 years, and we were fortunate to kind of get a jump on all the other podcasts and platforms that kind of started up with the pandemic. You know what I mean? Which and I'm not putting anyone. I know that yours kind of started in conjunction with that too, like a lot of people. And I don't blame anybody. I probably would have been doing the podcast with the pandemic if I hadn't before. But it just worked out that we started it about a year before the pandemic, so we're able to iron out the kinks and get our routine going and build up a repertoire. And all those guests that you just listed out, I'm very proud of the guests we've had. But like, it's hard to book people, man. Like for all those guests that we book, there's probably 5 or 6 people that either decline or don't get back to you at all.
And so I also on there just name one more. I'm King Foley from Deceased.
The best. The King. Yes, King Foley.
King
Great
Foley.
dude.
I just said Foley because I was thinking Mick Foley then. I was like, damn it.
Foley. Well, two great men. Both great men.
Yeah, both.
I mean, I would love to see those two guys collaborate on maybe
that would be great.
Maybe King Foley does a song from Nick Foley. Something's got to happen.
That would be great. I'd love to see that.
Yeah. And, true American hero. That when people think of America, I don't want you to think of politicians. I want you to think of King Foley and Nick Foley.
And definitely that. And Mick Foley is an absolute legend in the wrestling business. He lost his, I think it's his right ear.
Not sure on that.
Left right ear. I think it was his right ear with a match against Vader in Germany when he was in WCW. Because a wrestler complained about the ropes being loose, so they had to tighten them. And then you see Mick Foley get his neck caught, and he's trying to put his head out, and all of a sudden, his ear came out. His ear came off, and then the referee actually picked up the ear during the match, saying, "It's the rest of your ear."
I gotta look that. Is that on YouTube? I gotta look that up. Man.
Yeah, type.
Yikes.
Cactus Jack versus Vader.
Wow.
WCW 1994, and it's in Germany.
Wow, he's actually from Long Island. He's from my area here.
Yeah.
I believe Nick Foley was from Hicksville or Plainville, one of those towns. But in the late 80s and 90s, I'm pretty sure he lived in my town here in Huntington for a while, because they're like other school kids would be talking about him living in our town and stuff like that. But
he's from that area.
Yeah. He's always been like a hometown hero for us. Nick Foley, Suffocation. That's how it goes.
Yeah, and he mentioned one wrestler he always wanted to wrestle but never got the chance because he was murdered, and that was Bruiser Brody.
Yeah, that's a sad story. When that whole, I mean, I think they did a Dark Side of the Ring on it, but even before they did that, I was looking up those shoot interviews, and it's been covered.
It was hard to watch sometimes because it's like, oh man.
Yeah, and it's so dirty what they did. The way they did them, the fact that the guy got away with it, the fact that whatever it was, that I think it was like in Puerto Rico, right? It was like a Puerto Rican federation.
And they're hardcore wrestling fans down there. They take it too seriously, and
they went. I don't know so much about the culture down there, but just the fact that I know that they were able to keep booking shows and booking wrestling promotions for years after that. with like zero consequence, even though what happened, and everyone knows what happened. It sucks, man.
Yeah, it's very sad.
Yeah,
A
that
lot
Dark
of
Side of the
wrestlers
Ring
did.
is
A
an
lot of
amazing
wrestlers.
show, though.
Yeah, a lot of wrestlers didn't go back to Puerto Rico. I think mainly because of that.
Yeah, well, I mean, would you?
I wouldn't
Just
know,
yeah,
but I may have.
shit.
But going back to music, I may have some favorite bands from there as well. I can't think of any at
Yeah.
the moment in
Oh
time.
yeah. Yeah, nothing against Puerto Ricans or Puerto Rico, man. I mean, where I'm from here in New York, my neighborhood here, it's mainly Latino, mainly immigrant and Latino based, man. I grew up with a
And
lot of Puerto
a
Ricans,
lot
and
of
so yeah, nothing against that, but yeah, I mean, I just remember that that's where it happens,
yeah, and it
and you
was
say the wrestling culture over there, they take it too seriously. I imagine it's like that in a lot of countries.
yeah, it's like that.
Uh,
It's like it.
yeah,
It's sometimes like it, but you mentioned the like Latino culture. Obviously, there's a lot of
yeah,
bands from the Latino culture. Cenotaph from Mexico.
oh yeah,
Uh, trying to think
Discords from Mexico.
Disco from
Ugh,
Mexico.
love Discords from Mexico.
Um, trying to think about the bands
Well,
now.
we were just talking about Sepultura. I mean, if you go
Sepultura
down
from
to
Brazil.
Brazil, if you go to Brazil, South America, like there's enough metal in South America for me to have a whole nother lifetime of being a metalhead. Like all this behind me is like it's like a drop in the ocean compared to South America. It
Yeah,
is,
because
and now with social media, we're seeing this. Like you like look at what pick a country down there. There's a billion bands. It's just crazy, man.
it's
Black metal, death metal,
black
grindcore.
death
It's
metal, black death
yeah. I
metal,
mean, that's one of my dreams. I
black metal,
always,
death metal, thrash metal.
I would love to go down and do a South American tour with any of my Brazilian tour, Colombian tour, whatever.
I'd love to do that as well because a lot of my favorite bands are from not just the UK or America or Europe or Asia or Scandinavia, but a lot of them are from those areas as well.
Oh yeah, Chile. Yeah, man.
Chile.
Some a lot of like I know there's a lot of black metal there, and they love that old school gritty black metal from when it was like
Oh,
coming
definitely.
out of thrash metal. Still, they celebrate that a lot down there in South
Definitely. I've
America.
heard a bunch of those bands. I think I had one band from Chile. Chile. Trying to remember who they were, but that the sound from them was just
Yeah,
nasty. And I'm
I
thinking,
think I
these
think
guys have got
Hades.
something.
There's a band called Hades with a Z. I believe
I think I know them. Yeah.
they might. I don't want to say they're Chilean, but they're from South America. That shit is awesome. A lot of great Mexican bands too, like you were saying, Discord,
It's
Cenotaph,
cool. Cenotaph.
Blood Reaping. We did a tour with Artificial Brain. Played a few days out on the road with Thanatologist from Mexico.
Yeah.
They're a really good band, man. Good gore grind band.
But yeah, a lot of my favorite bands are from those areas. And speaking of gore grinding, that I watched this I watched this virtual festival on YouTube called Sick Dog Fest.
I didn't get to see that, but I saw that advertised. Yeah.
Oh, there was a bunch of bands from all over, like again,
Yeah.
like Mexico, Portugal, Chile, Russia, UK, America as well, Peru, all
I
bands.
mean,
That's
it's
what I love
worldwide.
about metal.
You got to
No matter
really
where
search
you're
far and
from,
wide to find like a corner of the earth where there's no metal. You
yeah,
really got. I
because
mean,
that's what I love about metal because it's not just in like our two countries; it's everywhere. You just got to look for
yeah.
it.
I actually
So diverse in terms of countries, and that's
I've
what
been
I like about it.
reading more like a lot of people now that are shut indoors with this pandemic. But I got this book actually. I haven't read it yet, but I bought this book online. This is my next read. This Heavy Metal Africa, and it's I guess it
Uh,
kind of like traces. It's a little bit of a dated book. I think it's about 10 years old now. Because is it Overthrust? There's an
yes,
Afro. Yeah, they're great. They're really good.
because I
I
had the
genuinely like them.
vocalist on here.
I gotta watch, and I reached out to them too, man. I really wanted to talk to that guy. I gotta go back and check out your interview with them
Yeah,
because
because
they seem like cool guys, and they're a good band.
I started
You know.
chatting to them on Facebook, and I just became very friendly with the guys on there. And
Yeah, and you see the pictures of their concerts where they're like old, like everyone's dressed up in like these like leather cowboy hats and crazy
I
outfits and stuff,
just
man.
saw that, and I thought,
I want to go. I want to be there.
wow, I want to go.
Yeah.
I want to watch. I want to go to this place now. I want to see this band live.
I mean, people put on those videos like that, like post them on Facebook like they're funny. I'm like that looks like a cool show. Those,
In their
like, I want to
leathers and their
go. You know what I mean?
motorbikes and just
Yeah.
playing metal, and it's just like,
Yeah,
oh
like a
man,
dirt floor, like somewhere in a like a
I've
kind of like
just
a
got
tent building or
experience.
whatever. Yeah,
I've got
let's do
experience
it,
this.
man.
I've got experience this in every single country now. I love
Yeah,
all my
fuck
favorite
this
bands I've
bougie
got
bullshit. I want to see that what death metal is like,
in all.
where the like the real down to earths, like real life people are playing it all over
Yeah,
the world, man. I would
well,
love to do that.
yeah, I've seen it in Sweden, so tick that
Hmm.
off. UK, I've done pretty much all the time. Done the Czech Republic because I went to Obscene Extreme Fest.
You bastard. I that's a lifelong goal of mine. That's a dream of mine is to go to Obscene Extreme. Obscene Extreme is number one. I would love to go to fuck the Commerce Fest. I would love to go to one of those those like they have Vakken and now they have Hellfest and those like Europe big European wide open air fests that are famous that we don't have in the US. I would love to go to those.
Yeah, well, Obscene Extreme Fest you'll love because there are times where you go to festivals and some bands clash with other bands. You don't get that problem because there's only
Yeah,
one
yeah.
stage. And I didn't camp there because one of our friends did. She camped with a bunch of friends of hers that she knew from there the last time she went. But us, the blokes, thought we're going to stay in a nice house. And because my mate's band, Black Skies Burn, based in like Reading, Oxford, sort of like they're spread out, but the band's on hold for a while. And that's my mate Steve's other band. They played, but Steve couldn't do it because he was out at that time. So they got our mate Striga, who's in a band here called Blaspheme, and he's from Slovakia originally. And Slovakia's got some great bands as well.
Hmm. Yeah.
Craniotomy, for example.
Them I'm not too familiar with.
Check them out if you love your
Um
brutal death metal. Like
yeah,
the
yeah.
first album, one of the albums I got sounds very old school, but then the other one sounds more brutal death.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
A lot of great bands from there. I was talking when I was on the phone with Paul Speckman from Master, we were talking about the Czech Republic grindcore and stuff and how you know you have all those like Alienation Mental and Contrastic and Pigsty. There's like all these like hyper blasting crazy grindcore bands there.
mm, so I was just turn my PlayStation 4 off, and Little Nightmares 2's downloading. So
Okay, I don't really play video games, man. The
fair
guys
enough.
in my bands do, but
Fair enough.
I got enough on my hands with music.
Yeah, got enough music wise, and I was going to say Czech Republic's got a lot of great bands as well. Gutterlax, anyone?
Yeah, there you go. That's a sick
And
band,
I've
dude.
seen them twice. First time was at a festival in Slovakia called Flesh Party Open Air,
Hmm.
which is mainly just more brutal death gore grind bands. Because mate, I know I'm not talking here, not talking properly. My mate Jason's old band, he's now in the Norwegian band Cranium,
Oh, okay.
playing guitar. It was a band that was going for a long time here in Bristol called Necrosis.
Okay, Necrosis. There's a couple of bands named Necrosis. I don't know if I was familiar with the British one.
Yeah, not going anymore.
Okay.
Unfortunately, but you can still listen to their EP they released, which I am trying to remember what it's called, and this is going to hurt my brain if I try to think about it anymore. But I'll find it, send a link, and you can have a listen.
Yeah, man.
Because if you love your brutal death, you love these guys. I knew all the guys in the band because they've all been in other bands before.
Yeah, there was a Necrosis from Long Island years and years ago, and I think there might have been a Finnish one back in the day too.
Yeah, I think there was a Finnish band called Necrosis. I don't know what it was called. I think there was a band called Necropsy. I think they were Swedish or Finnish.
Yeah, I always talk about on the show
They're
how
from that
like
area.
there's like the one word band names are very hard nowadays. You
One
got to
word
have like
band
three
name.
words in your band name to make sure that no one else has your band name. That's
Yeah,
tough, man.
like I don't know, like some heavy metal band decides to call themselves the Almighty Sledgehammer
Yeah,
or something.
yeah. Well,
Sort of
or
company.
like that's why you have all those bands that are like the dark sunset beckons forth. Or, it's like a whole sentence is the band name. Like that's
Yeah.
I think that's what fueled that is because like everyone used like death and grave and obituary, like all those names were taken.
Dark and not Dog and Nocturne Slaughter Cult.
Yeah, like yeah, there's not gonna be two of those. You know
So,
what I
you know,
mean?
this is like, oh, what's this band called? Dog and Nocturne Slaughter Cult.
Yeah, that's a
Why
good
is it
name. It's
such a
not
long?
gonna be.
It's a cool name, yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, why is it so long? Because they wanted it to be that long.
Well, because Death was taken.
Because Death was taken,
Yeah.
and I don't think it could be called Dark and just on its own because there's probably a million bands called that
Exactly. Yeah. Well,
from
there's
wherever.
there's Darken. There's probably a Nocturne.
Nocturne,
There's at least two Slaughters we know about, and there's the Cult was definitely a band. Yeah. So
you know.
you got to have a bunch of you got to pick like 5 bands and use all their names together and make your band
So
name.
this is a message to all bands out there, or you're forming a band, if you can at the moment. Think of an original name and think of one that's not actually a word. And there's a Bristol band that did that, and they're called Seprivation. That's not even a damn word; they just made it up.
That's good though because it sounds like a death metal word that wasn't taken, but they
Yeah,
invented
they're
it.
death
You know what I mean?
thrash, fucking brilliant. They only got one album out at the moment called
Seprivation.
Seprivation. Is the
Okay.
band? The album's called Consumed,
Okay.
which is a really great album. They all pretty much left their jobs they had at the time to go to Italy to record it.
Wow. All right.
And I was like, yeah. And I saw their very first gig when all the songs that I had at the time were written, and they sound completely different on that until you listen to the EPs, the promo, the album, the other EPs and stuff. How the sounds just progressed so
Yeah.
much. And I
Yeah.
know the guys personally because they're good mates of mine. Mad as anything. Like most of
Well,
my
those are
mates
the
in the
best
scene.
bands where, like, that's why I love the local bands around here, man, because you can watch them progress, man. I'm not like I'm some old man, but I'm a little bit older now, and I've watched, in the last 10 years, guys that were like in their teens go to like become in their 20s and go through their mid 20s and put out their band's demos and their band's albums. And I've watched like younger bands, like there's a band called Funeral Dancer from Long Island that's going to be coming out with some material. And those are all guys that I've watched their other bands through the years, and I've watched them, like you said, I watched them progress. I watched them change their sound. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
because
And you know them personally, so it makes it more special.
yeah, because their first gig was in December of 2011. Because a month
Hmm.
before that, because my birthday's in November, I turned 20 a month before.
Hmm.
And you can see me, my hair not as long as it is now, no beard, and I'm headbanging, and I'm not wearing a metal shirt, I'm wearing a Phantasm shirt.
Okay.
Because
Well, that's still a good movie. And actually, if you want a
they're
really
powerful.
sick American death metal band from years ago, Phantasm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
I know Phantasm, yeah.
Oh, that's one of my all-time favorites. Great band.
Yeah, because everyone always looks at me and think, how do you know all these bands? How do you know all so much about metal? Because I do too much research.
Hey, you look who you're talking to, man.
You do a lot
That's
of
what I
research
do.
for the podcast and that. Also,
But you know what it is?
a
It's
lot
a
of
labor of
podcasts.
love, man. It's like I look forward to my day off of work every week. I make some coffee and I get my notebook out and I take a whole bunch of notes on whatever the podcast, whatever guest we're having on the podcast that week. And I binge listen to albums. Like when we had Obituary, when we had Trevor from Obituary on, I spent the whole weekend just listening to Obituary albums.
Nice.
And, like that's the research. So it's fun, man. You know what I mean?
But, yeah,
And you
definitely.
and like the music, like that album you held up before, Executioner's Return, with the two bandmates that had passed away,
Yeah,
uh,
Frank.
Ralph and Frank, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Ralph and Frank.
rest in peace to them.
Rest in
It's
peace.
like, I mean, obviously it's sad. Rest in peace to those guys with respect, but in a way, it adds to the depth of that out. When you listen to Executioner's Return now, that's those guys' legacy. That's what those guys left behind here, in this life. And you listen to it, you know what I mean? It's like same way you listen to a Cynic album now, it has that extra depth to it. The guy's gone, but this is what he left behind.
Yeah,
So
left
doing
behind.
the podcast, I learn about different stuff like that all the time that
Yeah,
I never realized that the guy who produced this album passed away, or not even death, maybe, like that these people collaborated, or that this guy was once in a band with this guy many years ago. Stuff you realize doing the research. Metallum, you can make a meme out of it, you can make a joke out of it, but Metallum has done wonders for the metal scene and for our ability to cover it in our platforms. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. That's where I find out about most bands nowadays, unless someone tells me about, and then I check them out.
Dude, picture this. Picture if instead of metal, you were trying to do this type of program for punk rock or hip hop or any other type of music. There's not a Metallum out there for that,
No,
and it's hard. You can't just cross reference every rapper the way you can every metal band because of Metallum. You know what I mean? Like it's really a good tool for people like us who are
yeah,
trying to cover it.
that's why I like it, because I can find these bands that I either, well, A, they're still going, or B, they're not going, but I still listen to them regardless, because if it's something I like, if it's death metal, I don't. Oh wait, I need to get this misconception out there, because everyone thinks I just listen to death metal all the time and like a lot of death metal bands. I don't like every death metal band that's come out. Not every band. It's like you can't like every death metal band or thrash metal band, or black metal band, doom metal band, grindcore band. Because if you did, it's like, wow, you're kind of boring. I know, but I listen to death metal on if it's got that certain sound, certain groove to it, then it's going in my collection.
Yeah, I mean, you like what you like. At this point, I just know I like metal. I mean, like I said, I'll still break out Grim Reaper. I'll still break out Iron Maiden. I'll still break out
Y'all listen to
hell,
Maiden,
Dokken or Rat, even their older
Dio,
albums. I mean, like whatever, man.
Dio as well.
Yeah, Dio. Yeah, all that stuff, man. But like I always say, death metal is home base. It all revolves around death metal for me because that's what I really love the most. But I have black metal albums. I have all sorts of stuff, man. It's all good.
Dio.
Yeah, yeah, it's a great album, man.
Thought mentioned Dio. Dio.
Yeah, exactly, man.
Bloody hell! I got too many vinyl in here. Oh, you know this one. Anthrax.
Yeah, Anthrax, man. Admit, as a New York guy who's into the old school metal, I gotta say, I gotta admit, I'm not a big Anthrax guy. Anthrax never really did it for me a whole lot.
It's not everyone's cup of tea, as we say in the UK. It's not everyone's cup of tea.
Yeah.
I don't always drink tea. There's no misconception. We all just drink tea. No, I drink bloody coffee. I drink
that is
coffee.
that is like the misconception, I guess, is that everybody over there just drinks crazy tea all day long, man.
Yeah, because everyone thinks we just drink cups of tea, eat fish and chips, and roast beef and Yorkshire pudding. No.
It's all good because I didn't go to McDonald's today and I didn't shoot anybody today, but I'm American, so we're both shattering the stereotypes.
There's that and those stereotypes, people. You can't just think. Someone say, "Oh, in Britain, do you just drink tea and you have warm beer?" I have my beer cold. Damn it!
It's been at least 48 hours since I've eaten a hamburger. Okay, so
stop it, people. Stop it.
Yeah, stop the
it.
stereotypes.
Doesn't matter what country you're from. We all love that. And you're metalhead.
Yeah.
No matter what country you're from and you're metalhead, we all love metal. So there you go.
It's true, man.
And last album, Judas Priest.
Oh, there you go. Sad Wings of Destiny, man. That's all you need. I just got Painkiller on vinyl. That Painkiller, that Sad Wings of Destiny is a beautiful album.
Yeah, Painkiller.
But Painkiller is my personal favorite Priest album, and I just got it. I had somebody got me an Amazon gift card for Christmas, and which was very nice of them, but I don't use Amazon, so I kind of just like logged on to, and I was like, what metal records can I get with this? And that happened to be one of them, so I got Judas Priest Painkiller on vinyl. Oh, that's a good one too, man. Actually, that's the other one that I got recently, man. I got that from a record store finally on vinyl. Is that the reprint from like 2 or 3 years ago? Because I got that too.
Bloody hell, I think it is, yeah.
Yeah, you and me probably got the same edition, man, because I just got that recently. Great album to have, dude.
Oh, yeah, I was just saying that. It says that 1982 original sound recordings made by EMI Records Limited.
Yeah.
Don't know if you can... Shit, I can't even see it.
Beautiful album. And, again, my favorite Maiden album, I think, is Somewhere in Time. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Iron Maiden has any albums that, I would consider bad or what, like, that Number of the Beast is great. Yeah, beautiful album.
Now one of my favorites is Power Slave.
Power Slave, great album. Yeah, man. And then believe it or not, I actually like Brave New World. with the first one with the 3 guitars on it. It
Oh
was
yeah,
more
yeah,
progressive. It wasn't as traditional, but I thought it was great.
yeah, definitely. And well, we can talk vinyl all night here and talk bands all night. Well, it's night time here for me. I don't know what time it is over in your end.
We're gonna be getting into nighttime soon, man. Sun hasn't gone down yet.
Yeah, it's like 19 minutes past 9 in the evening here.
Okay.
And I might actually check outside in a minute to see if I've got any snow. We probably don't. Or maybe
Yeah.
get a bit of snow coming again. For your bands and also the podcast. I know we can find the podcast on Spotify, and I know we can find the bands on Spotify. But
Hmm.
if people wanted to buy, let's start with the bands first. If they wanted to find merch for Afterbirth or any other bands that you're in, why can they find that?
Well, here's the rundown. Artificial Brain is signed to Profound Lore Records.
Like,
So Canadian people might want to go with Profound Lore Records because it's in Canada. Merch. We also do Masker merch. Is our merchandiser. They sell our T-shirts and tapestries and that sort of stuff for Art of Brain. For Afterbirth, we're signed to Unique Leader Records, and
yeah,
they
of
do
course.
all of our merchandising. Both bands do have a band camp, and you can reach out to us directly. And we do have limited amounts of our own merchandise. The labels tend to have greater stock and availability at any given time because none of my bands. If my bands were touring a lot right now, we would have a lot more on hand to sell. But we
Yeah.
don't have so much of a stock right now, so that's why I'm shouting out the labels. But for Afterbirth, it's Unique Leader Records. Reeking Aura, we just have a cassette tape that's sold out, but you can still check it out on Bandcamp. Buckshot Facelift is on Bandcamp, and we sell all of our merch for Buckshot Facelift ourselves on Bandcamp. We have vinyl, CDs, shirts, the whole thing. Um, and for the podcast, like you said, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. If you don't have any of those and you're like me, you're kind of a dinosaur, you could just go to Fireside FM and you don't have to sign up or anything. It's just a website where you can play it for free.
Yep.
And if all else fails, just reach out to me, heavyholepodcast at gmail.com, and I'll tell you where to get that size 6X buckshot facelift leotard that you want. So
Leotard. That's brilliant. And yeah, definitely check the Heavy Hole podcast out. I mean, I did admit to you the only one I've watched so far is the one with Kent, not watched, heard. Damn it. You don't watch it, you hear it.
That's the one to listen to though. That's
Well,
good.
not I mean I asked him about roughly the same things you asked him.
Well,
But it's great that people are talking to him, but he says I shouldn't really get much of the credit. It's like, well, we give him that credit because he's been in the scene for such a long time.
yeah, he's very modest.
He's very
Modest
modest,
guy.
yeah,
That's the word. Yeah.
very modest. And I've even told him putting out all these bands on his channel is great, and he's like, "Oh, you're too kind." And he's like, "Well, because he's much older than me. I was born in the 90s. He was born in 1970."
Yeah. Yeah.
And so yeah, he's been in the scene a lot longer than I have,
A lot longer than I have.
and you've been in the scene longer than I have.
That's what I mean, man. Relatively, none of it matters.
None of
You
it
know,
matters.
it
We all
doesn't
love
matter
the
when you
same music.
doesn't matter when you were born. We're all at the same
Doesn't
party.
matter.
You know.
I mean, and it doesn't matter what year you're born, what your race is, what country you're from, your beliefs are, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter if if you're all into the same music. It shouldn't really matter about any of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's yeah, it's like we were saying. There's metal everywhere. You
There's
know what I
metal
mean?
everywhere, and you got to check out, just not in your own backyard.
Mm-hmm.
So my collection's everywhere. Like I said, here, America, Sweden, Finland, Norway, Denmark. Trying to think where else now. I think I got some just bands from France, Germany, Italy,
I mean,
Brazil,
it would be
Japan.
easier to make a list of where there aren't bands.
Yeah,
Probably just like dictatorship somewhere where they can't even have an instrument. That's probably the only place. And
yeah,
even there's probably some guy making metal somehow against the law.
yeah,
You know.
doing it somehow. And
Yep.
well, all the power to him. And on
Yep.
that note, thank you for coming on Jake's Metal Chat
Thank you, Jake. It was great to meet you digitally
digitally.
and to be on the program, man. I appreciate it, brother. Thank you for the support, man.
Yeah, I just thought, yeah, you're welcome. I'm going to continue to listen to a lot more. I don't know what I'm on my phone, but there's a lot more of the whole podcast, and also it was great to hear that you mentioned my mate Phil Wadey from
Oh
Phil's
yeah,
This Metal, which is great, and I hope one day you can get him on there as well.
yeah. Shout out to Phil, and we definitely appreciate his support too. And he always pops in on the social media and stuff like that, man. We always see him on there, man. So shout out to him, man.
Yeah,
It'd be
he's a
great to talk to him, and always enjoy speaking with and dealing with our friends from the other side of the pond, as they say, from across the pond, man.
yeah,
Always great to deal with our people over there in the UK.
yeah, and he's just a walking encyclopedia of this underground metal knowledge. It's ridiculous.
Hell
But
yeah!
I've
Well,
been,
that's we got to get me and him to play Trivial Pursuit of death metal one day.
yeah, I can join in with that as well. Because
Yeah.
there's all three of us do it, and then by the end of it, we'll all just be physically exhausted because we're just trying to make all this shit.
Yeah. Well.
Because I've been on this podcast before, and my last guest, who's my mate Simon, was also on the podcast as well for different episodes. Not the same episode, different episodes. And
Yeah, I gotta catch up with your like I was saying, I want to listen to that whole Cam Lee interview, definitely.
it's
See
three
what he had
hours
to
long.
say.
So if you got 3 hours
Yeah.
of your time,
Yeah. We've been going for a while too, right? This is what is this, 2 hours now at least?
about 2 hours,
Yeah.
I'll check once it's all converted and uploaded. I'll probably upload. I usually this is one who's doing my videos because some people are like, "Are these videos up yet?" It's like I usually post them on the same day or I post them the next day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
That's
yeah,
it.
shoot me a message when you do. We'll share it.
Yeah, I'll link it to the Heavy Hole podcast Facebook Messenger. I'll link everything down there. So trying to find merch, Facebook pages, Instagram pages,
Yeah.
all down in the description. It's all going to be there. So you don't have to go, Google, do that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Just
we'll share
more
it.
people, share it around, do it with this video, the podcast. And if you haven't checked out Afterbirth yet, check out Afterbirth. Because I'm going to be checking out a lot more now.
Zombified Preachers of Gore, man.
Zombified Preachers of Gore and just checking out, just hearing about all these new bands and even bands I've already heard of. And yeah, so it's all good. And yeah, and you're always welcome to come back here and we can have another chat.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
Good
you,
talking to you, brother.
me, you, yeah, and you, me, and a bunch of and some previous guests that I've had before to come back on.
Yeah, man.
Get like
Definitely, man.
4 or 5
Good.
maybe.
Good. We can't do this at the pub or at a show, but at least we could do it on Zoom now, huh?
Yeah, definitely. And before you go, what hoodie are you wearing?
Oh, this is a local, I guess you could say New York, New Jersey band, Thetis, Theatas. I had to look. Thetis, from
Yes.
New York. There's uh the guy Terrell who plays guitar in Thetis. He's in Buckshot Facelift and Reeking Aura with me. So
Oh, cool.
I'm cheating. I'm supporting my friend's band. But yeah, really really good guys. And this is actually what, like I was saying, these guys are younger than me, and I really watched these guys start this band and, like you said, change their style, evolve, and they just put out their first album on Maggot Stomp Records this past
I get
summer.
stumped, yeah.
Thetis. Yeah, good
So
band.
yeah. So again, thank you. You're always welcome to come back to the chat and take care of yourself and keep in contact with your loved ones and all that. And we'll get through this.
You too, brother. And yeah, stay optimistic. Keep your head up, man, and keep doing this, man, because this is good, man. It's good for the people who watch it. It's good for the people who are on it, and it's good for you to do it, man. It's what else are we gonna do with our time in the metal scene, but this sort of thing until the shows come back.
Yeah, definitely. He's been Big Will of the Heavy Hole podcast and Afterbirth and various other bands. I've been Jake of Jake's Metal Chat. You don't have to watch these videos, but it helps me a lot to keep making these videos. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my videos, share my videos, and subscribe to my channel. because it helps me to make more videos like this so I don't go completely insane.
That's what we want, man. We want to keep you with us, buddy.
So take care, good morning, good night, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, and keep waving that flag of metal.
All right, Jake. I'll see you later, brother. Be good, man.
And off we go.